To order at 6:33 p.m. This is a real Wardsboro versus Dover tonight.
It's a battle, huh? We're on both sides of the table?
It's a battle of the boroughs.
Right. The boroughs.
Battle of the Hill.
Okay, so we called the meeting to order, which is good.
Only 2 minutes left.
And then additions or deletions to the agenda? Members of the public, this is where I say don't all jump at once, folks. We'll get to every one of you, I promise.
And I'll get away with
I walked in, I'm like, what were you expecting?
Lori was nervous.
This is what's usually set up. That's when he said that.
I feel it's a battle of the board versus the administration. Wow, you guys are all sitting over there way back in the boonies. You guys ready? We got to review and approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2019 meeting, which y'all was sent. You all. Anybody got any comments, questions, answers?
Yeah, my name's spelled wrong at the very end.
Yeah, well, get used to it.
That's it?
If that's all you found.
That's all I found.
Matt's gonna make you do minutes for this meeting because you are the clerk. Who is the clerk?
I am.
Oh,
I
you
got
guys-
voted last meeting. In the minutes.
6:31.
It's in the minutes. Does that mean I'm taking notes?
No,
I don't
Matt
have a
said,
pen.
Matt said he would. Matt said he would.
Okay, thanks.
And then Bill's gonna have Peter review the tape when he gets back. Maybe you can watch it in London. TV in London is not that good.
Talking about the BBC. It's great.
Okay, is there a motion, anybody? Except for somebody having their name spelled wrong?
I'll make a motion.
You want to second it, Barry?
I'll second it.
Okay, so Mark made a motion to approve them, Barry seconded. Rick, did you have anything?
No, I was just
Okay.
gonna second if nobody else wanted to.
Okay, is there any other, besides the spelling of the name, Matt, at the end? If there's nothing else, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it appears as though the motion passes. The motion passes. Supervisory Union, lots of neat stuff happened at the SU meeting last week. So, number one, new policy for Act 46.
This Wednesday.
Pardon?
I wrote down that the meeting was on Thursday, and I
Oh.
showed up on Thursday to a West River Valley youth basketball.
How was it? Did you, they let you in?
I didn't sit.
That was the game.
What's that?
Is it a good game?
No. It was just their setup meeting.
So we had, back a couple years ago on WCSU, actually probably about 4 years ago now, I think, Bill, maybe, Marlboro had been asking to look at the way we did special ed funding, and
Say 4
then
years.
the census model came through with, through the legislature, and we, which is Act 173, I believe. And so we'd actually had some meetings, and we had met with administration, Lori, and a parent from Marlboro, and some administrators, and we did come up with a policy suggestion in a way that we're going to fund special ed a little different now. And so the policy was adopted on the 13th, last Wednesday. And the goal is to create a sustainable and collaborative WCSU system that respects both freedom and unity while working in an environment of the new census model funding system. So the unity is deploy already committed to collaborative, preventative, and measurable strategies to bend the cost curve on special ed for all districts across the WCSU. Specific areas include WCSU provided professional development, PD, WCSU supervision and evaluation, S&E model, and a local comprehensive assessment system that allows SU administrators to discuss and measure the rates of student success against the standards approved by the Vermont State Board of Ed. And there's a little asterisk under success, and different methods of reliable testing that prove standards can be used. Assessments will be reviewed each year for reliability and ability by the superintendent and/or task force of WCSU administrators. And that may be a really small policy, but it took forever to get to. And then the funding was already approved, and the funding is, everybody's at the spot they were at before, and any increase in special ed is gonna be funded by ADM. So if everybody has one level we're all stuck at, wherever we were last year or this year?
Fiscal year 20 is the base year,
Which is the year we're currently in. No, the year we just finished.
the year we're in.
Or the year we're in. And then after that, any increase between FY 20 and 21, that number, that increase will be taken and divided amongst all the schools by ADM, or all the school districts. So there's only 3 school districts that participate. Stratton doesn't count in that, do they?
Yes.
Oh, they do? Okay, so it's Wyndham, Stratton, West River, and River Valleys. So obviously we're the second biggest, but Wardsboro isn't that far behind us, are they?
I mean,
By
Percentage-wise?
ADM? Yeah,
No, they're catching up.
but
You mean Marlboro?
Marlboro, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, I think West River is like 50% of the ADM for the district, 50 something.
51.
And we're in the 20%-ish.
I think they're 18.9 maybe.
I'm sorry, for what?
ADM.
ADM. But we'll see it in a few minutes. So anyways, that was one thing that happened. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If not,
Can you expound a little bit upon, it'll be based upon ADM?
yeah.
Can you give a
So
little bit
the
more?
increase, so just as a quick example, Lori will yell at me if I'm wrong. Let's say that total spending for FY 20 was $1 million. And then FY 21, it's $1.1 million.
Okay,
So the billion will still be split the way it was this year. The $100,000, even if it's all from one school, say it was all from Marlboro or Stratton, I mean, but the total, that 100,000 is gonna be split by ADM. So just using the rough numbers, West River would pay about 50% of it, but they may not have any additional students. They may have even a little bit less expense or something, but it's still being spent. That's how we're gonna split any increase in the total funding required to fund special ed. And then we are at like usually around 20, a little over 20%-ish.
River Valleys is 27 for
So
total.
we would pay 27% of it. Marlboro would pay their 19, 20, and then Stratton pays, and Wyndham pays their percentage.
yeah, I like
So
$1
it-
million then.
Yeah, huh?
I like $1 million, it's easy.
Yeah, and then just the increases. And we thought that was the fairest way, because a lot of schools have worked really hard to control some of that. So that still says that, yes, you did that, because we're using those previous numbers, but it's saying anything new. And it's not, it's just for the elementary and high school. Preschool, we've always done that by ADM across the board, not the ADM required for special ed or for early ed, but by the total ADM, because the district has always felt that there's not a lot you can do with the student before the student gets into your system to help. But it's kind of like an insurance policy, because part of the deal is to be covered by this, you have to follow the policy. So if we decide as River Valleys that we don't believe in Bill's, in the SU's version of how to assess, and we go out and do something totally different and it's not recognized, then we don't get the benefit of that insurance policy. So let's say in that $1 million thing, and it goes up 100,000 in the scenario, then we would be responsible for the full increase if it was our increase.
Gotcha, okay,
So-
so you'd be responsible in that case for the 100,000.
Right, because
If you
we
didn't follow the
aren't
policy.
following the best practices and what a lot of people that are a lot smarter than us have determined to be the best way to.
Mhm.
Is that good?
Pretty good.
Lori, you okay with that?
Yes.
Sounds
but then the numbers are a lot different. What was, I think, well, we're gonna look at it right now.
Excellent.
If you guys are good with the new policy,
And as far as a decrease in ADM?
Same thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, ADM.
Yes.
So every year we calculate ADM, so that percentage gets
Will change
recalculated each
every
year.
So as an example, if we wind up tripling our students
Mhm.
and West River loses half their students, then we would be paying whatever percentage. So our ADM has actually gone down a little, which surprised me because I thought we were holding steady or
Yeah,
growing.
It went down a little bit, right?
Right, and Marlboro actually went up because of the preschool, and West River went down, right?
No, they stayed.
Pretty close.
The same, yeah.
They had preschool as well. They lost it
Okay.
at the high school level, but they got it at the preschool level.
So and remember, the ADM is all, whatever we're getting credit for from the state.
Okay.
It's not, they're not real numbers because one of them is 50, like 512.3 students or something. And that, like I've always said, that 0.3 student will kill you.
Does that number include the phantom students?
Yes, it includes, is it the weighted ADM or the regular ADM that we report in October?
In October, we report ADM, which is the kids in the chairs. Okay, you think of that. And then that turns into the equalized people, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
then we send all that information up to the state, and then they start the weighting of those numbers. They take the 2-year average and then start weighting them depending on what.
Depending on where they are, because the pre-K students is not
And then-
weighted the same as high school.
Correct.
Got it.
That's right, and then they add for poverty, and there's different weights for different things.
And just for fun fact, there will be a study out December 15th on how we weight those students. That will be given to the legislature to contemplate changing how they weight students.
That includes the rural weight study.
So rurality was one of the things that was considered during the study, but this actual study itself is asking for weighting in general.
The rural weighting was something our legislators been asking for. It was actually in the law a couple of years ago, and the Department of Ed just said, we're not going to follow that part of the law. We'll take the financing you're giving us, but
Yeah, that one was very specific to rural.
no, it was. it
And
bothered
this
me
one
a lot.
became totally, yeah.
When certain agencies decide what part of the law they want to follow, and they can get away with it. So, first thing we're going to go over is the superintendent's budget. Rich, there's one here for you if you want it. You guys all have this? Anybody want it? So basically, this budget was approved at the meeting last week. When we did a compensation meeting about a month and a half ago, they predicted, the SU's office predicted a 3.4% increase. So Lori brought it in at 3.39 just to show that she could. And, pardon? Right. So this is a done deal, but I just want you guys to see it because this is going to affect our budget. So Lori, you want to just do your high level talk like you did it the other day because that was really good?
Yes. So get the narrative in front of me.
Oh, do you want one? I got them here.
No, I have I pulled everything apart to copy, so
Well, I'll read the notes. 3.39 represents $30,334 increase over the current budget we're in. 18,100 are salary increases that were approved by the WCSU board on October 23rd. Incorporates a director of operation position, reduction of a half-time FTE in the business office, and they shifted some responsibilities resulting in a reduction in HR, but that's a pilot program, and they just wanted to let us know that because they may have to come back and ask for it again next year, but they're hoping that they can run the office that way. There was a shift in account code structures with the implementation of the e-finance program, and so some FY19 actuals were inflated due to combining account codes. So what she's saying is if you look at the next page where you have the numbers, there's some things that look like big increases or decreases, and it's not a real number because the account codes, how she used to account for things changed. So from now on, we'll be, and because of Lori's hard work and her office's hard work, we're in a really good spot, because from now moving forward, we'll be able to look at good comparisons where there's other school districts that are 2 or 3 years out. So they had their old accounting system, then they had their new combined districts, and then they're gonna go to a new accounting system.
Right.
So it's gonna be really difficult for them, so we should be in a really good spot. And that is, like I said, the 3.39% increase. Some of that's because there was an increase, we had a fund balance, and we actually were asked back last spring to use some of that fund balance to hire the director of operations, and actually they didn't have to use as much as they thought, so we're also looking at there may be a little bit larger fund balance than we anticipated. And they're still doing the FY20, which we just closed out, audit, so we'll have better numbers after that audit is done. And if you go to the second, third page, those are all your numbers. And the third page is actually the breakdown, and it gives you your how much each different school district is paying. Marlboro, River Valley, Stratton, Wyndham. Lori, you good?
Yeah, I just wanted
Yep.
to make one point, as we look at this and then look at also the special ed. The ADM numbers are different because traditionally the superintendent's budget is mainly all of just the elementary students, not the secondary students, but special ed takes into consideration the secondary students or tuition students that are getting special ed also. So when you look at the different numbers, they're all ADM, but they're just, one is just pre-K through 6 for River Valley in this budget. In the special ed budget, it's pre-K through 12.
So this will be part of when we go through the budget, there'll be a number in there for superintendent's office. And we'll see some of these numbers in that. But this is was set by the SU board. So is there any questions for Lori or Bill? Luckily Matt and Tammy get out on this one. This isn't, they can't. They get to skate.
So that is something to point out, actually. So you have a negative, or
Right.
not a negative increase, that's not the right term, but however, that's because your student count went down, which will affect you on the ADM equalized pupil side. So,
So when we figure out our tax rate, we have less coming in.
right.
So don't get too excited, because we haven't gone
It's
through the
always nice
special
to
ed
see
budget
a,
yet.
not an increase, but.
Richard's another one of those for you, buddy. Is everybody good with the SU budget? Any questions, Rick?
Why you start with me?
Well, no, because you look very intently at something. I'm
No,
not
no,
sure
no.
what-
I'm looking intently at SU Doc Technology/DOO. None of those mean anything to me.
It's the director of operations.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
Director of curriculum, and a portion, well, it's a portion of all three of those positions.
Great. Then we hired somebody into that position, so we expect to see an increase.
So director of operations to 25% of their salaries being paid by special ed?
Yeah, we had him do a time study, and so it was 24.7%, so we're billing 25% to special ed.
So again, sometimes people think we're like trying to hide, the SU's
No,
trying to
I
hide
know what
things,
it's
but-
about.
No, you do, but a lot of new people feel like, oh, I caught you. Is everybody good with that? Barry? Dwight, good? Mark?
I'm good.
Mark did come to the meeting last week to see what happens at the SU, so, but he didn't get to vote. Okay, special ed, FY21 special education summary. So this one again, we just, we talked about the policy we adopted because of Act 173, and Lori started this off, Lori and Stephanie started this off with a little bit about Act 173 and then also about the special ed census fund policy up top. And then the impact is there was a huge increase of $900,000. But again, it's just like budgets. There's also revenue increase because some of that increase is from state place students. So the total variance is only $134,627 over the previous year, which is really a 5.82% increase. So if you look at that, $900,000, you would say, oh my gosh, but it's not as bad as you think. And that's all explained in our budgetary impacts. And again, remember too that we're fighting a 12.9% health insurance increase everywhere. And in the special ed budget, that's $60,000. And then outside placements of $640,000, and that was an increase in 6 students. But again, some of those are state place students, so there is some money coming in, we get reimbursed. And then there's increased transportation, obviously, with outside placements. And other schools, years ago, Rick, you probably remember, schools were charging a fee, and I forget what they called, like a surcharge, because even though we were paying for the services for that child, there was people in the office doing work and people in the building doing work for special place students. And so they were charging, I think Brattleboro was like $10,000 a student at one time.
Yeah, it's called excess cost, and it's over and above the regular ed tuition that you pay for special ed.
So they kind of dropped it for a while, now they're starting to do it again because everybody's trying to, with the census model wants to. But also with the census model, remember the amount of reimbursement we're gonna get is gonna be based on our expenditures over 2 or 3 years and depending which years. So it's kind of like 2 with Act 60. You don't wanna cut everything too far, too quick, because then when it comes time for the just getting a chunk of money, not based on anything other than your previous expenditures, if your numbers are way. So it's kind of like almost a catch-22. Don't save too much, but save money. Lori, what else do you want to cover?
No, I think you covered it all. It's pretty detailed here as to the changes. I would only say that there was also a shift in funding with our related service providers, which are the OT, PT, SLP. They are seeing a larger majority of pre-K students, so you'll see the pre-K budget is up also quite a bit, and there's no reimbursement other than a single block grant for $64,000 for what we used to call Triple E, which is now known as Early Childhood Special Education. So when we do the budget for special ed, we have to look back at the time studies that are done throughout the year by these different providers, and that informs how many early childhood special education dollars we need to move into there. And so this year, it was quite a bit that we had to move because they were just seeing the kids more. So more students and more services. They're finding higher needs.
I thought that early childhood was in a separate packet. So
It probably is at the
it's
end
in the back of this packet. So with the special ed budget, if you go to the second page, this is, Lori, you want to, if you look across the top, this is kind of how we get to how much we have to pay as an SU. And then on the bottom is how it gets broken down by what each group pays. But again, because of the cost methodology up top, Lori, you want to just run through that?
Sure. So the summary page that you have in front of you takes all of the gross expenses for special education, K through 12. So this is not part of the ECSE budget. And then we just basically work through the reimbursements. The 3203 reimbursement is what we call formula eligible reimbursement. And then there's a block grant that comes from the AOE as well. And then we also get revenue from state play students and extraordinary cost students. That's the $629,000. And then we also use our IDEA grant to offset some of the costs there that are used SU-wide. For instance, the Director of Special Education is fully funded through that grant because she serves all students in all districts, so it's a good way to use the money. So that is a revenue that we bring in, and then that creates the, basically the bill to the LEAs of $2.4 million. And then we take that $2.4 million and in this methodology, as Rich was saying before, we took fiscal year 20 as a base year, which was $2.3 million, the second grid down, the bold grid. And fiscal year 21 is 2.4, so the year-over-year variance is 134,000. So we take that 134,000 and divide it by your percentage of ADM. Is that making sense for everybody? So your new allocation for special ed for fiscal year 21 for River Valleys is 321,669. So, which is actually, I think, a little bit down from what I actually put into the River Valleys budget. So as when you get your second draft, I'll readjust that. We hadn't quite finished this budget before your first draft came out, so.
It's very confusing, but we looked at a whole bunch of different models, and Lori came up with this like at the last minute. I won't tell you where it really came from, because she gets very upset. But Lori had some help from a higher power, not me or the board or anybody, but.
Well, it was complicated in when we used just ADM to split the 2.4 million, we'll say. There was huge variances.
Most of them bad.
Yeah, for River Valleys, it would have meant like a $500,000 increase, right? Because it hadn't been done that way in the past. So we're changing models. So this was a modified way to change the model without causing big swings for any one district. So it worked out well in that case.
You can tell just from the gross number, if you just divided it by ADM, it would have been a phenomenal increase for
Yeah.
certain parties and
And a huge decrease for others.
and a size decrease for others, yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't really true of the,
The actual spending.
yes, so this really takes into account all of that.
Good negotiating, Richard.
Well, it wasn't just me, it was because we actually, it was weighted pretty heavy towards the West River and Marlboro. I don't think, did Wyndham participate? I don't remember anybody from Wyndham at those meetings. But Marlboro actually had their administrator, their almost a bunch of board members and a parent.
I'm sure they did.
But it was really good because they, everybody bought in, and this is something that Marlboro's been talking about for
Yeah,
years.
no, I remember. It's at
Yeah.
least like 7 or 8 years.
And we
they've been
kept
talking
kind of
about
blowing
this.
them off.
Yeah, you did a great job of doing that too, just by the way. If I remember correctly. Let's table this discussion.
Well, Marlboro actually would have benefited from just doing it by ADM, but they came back to the table and agreed that this was
Right.
fair, so that was,
That's why I said it was a good,
It was
That's
good
a big
discussion.
great compromise, it
Yeah.
really is now, I think, compared to what it could have been.
especially for
As
us.
far as swings go.
Are you going to be continuing the same methodology of using the previous year's total
Right,
plus the?
exactly, so fiscal year 21 will become the base year for 22.
So the only time this will change is if they change the law or a district comes in and says, hey, we want to re-examine this, but then it's up to the SU. And remember, to give credit where credit's due, this goes back to Frank Rucker and Abby, back realizing that some schools were spending a lot more on certain things to help bring down the cost of special ed, so that it wasn't fair to just, it was a good idea to give them, some benefit for their expenditures. So And, you know, it made sense that you could do it in the special ed where you could control something, but in the essential early ed, you know, nobody has, you don't even know what you have until the student gets into the school. So that's why that one has always been by ADM, and we'll get into that one next. So, I mean, so I know a lot of times people's eyes glaze over with special ed, and it used to always be, well, it is what it is, and let's not even bother talking about it. But it's good to understand because Act 173 is going to change a lot for a lot of schools, and there's a lot of schools already wondering what they're going to do.
It's good to understand what you can understand.
Yeah.
For the information that you're privy to.
And don't forget too, though, folks, again, this goes back to my town meeting joke, is that, you know, if we could, so Stephanie and Lori and the group are making up a budget that doesn't even start until July 1st, and it's got to run all the way through June of the following year. And, you know, in Dover, we had a student that was $120,000 leave town like August 30th and show up in down in Stamford, and it was an out of the area placement at, like I said, 120 something, and they're like, we didn't budget for this, what are we going to do? And that's one of the things Marlboro, in all rights, Marlboro, there's nothing that
Well,
Stamford
none of
did or
us
could have
can,
done.
none of
Right.
us can foresee something like that.
No, but
happening. But it
that's
can also trash.
right. It can make you look great by having a huge surplus, or it can make you look like you don't know what you're doing. And that's why, you know, a lot of people really fall for all special to just go through the state because,
Because
you
that's
know,
where it should be.
people move, right?
And this will also, we'll do a true-up at the end, like we've always done anyway. And so if there was overspending throughout the year, we had one of those students move in, whatever that overage is will be split by ADM. So again, it won't affect one single district when you have a residential student move in or move out. So it won't, you know, it's a shared cost.
Well, the hard part is the reimbursement, actually getting the reimbursement back really is what kills us for, like, a cash flow perspective, for lack of a better word.
Yes, we still have not received our final fiscal year 19 special ed reimbursement.
That's why fund balances are very good things to have.
Yeah, no, that can be a big hole down the road.
It is. It is. It's all at the SU right now. So it's managing the SU funds, and we can't borrow money. So
Well, that does make it more difficult, actually.
Yeah.
And you really aren't supposed to have a huge balance, although I mean, you have one now. But for years past, you never had one
right.
to fall back on. So
But I also think that wasn't intentional. That was just the way things happen to go. We've been able to get a better control, I think, at the SU level now than we ever had before, too.
there was a little bit of misunderstanding too, as far as what the SU could hold.
Yeah.
I mean, there was many years where we were told nothing can stay here, right?
Well, yeah, didn't they wasn't there talk at one time, it was capped at 10%?
That was before we had, I honestly don't know that number.
I just remember Frank saying that years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, you're not really supposed to, an SU's not supposed to make money, but in terms, I think the AOE is now allowing for a little bit more flexibility with so many things coming through the SU. I mean, all grants come through the SU now, all special ed comes through the SU, all transportation comes through the SU. I mean, the SU has to have some sort of
Flexibility. Yeah,
flexibility if we can't borrow money. So.
Okay, is everybody good with special ed, as good as?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so skip back, it's the last 2 pages is the early childhood special education, used to be essential early childhood. But minimize need for long-term special ed instructions for early intervention. I think if Stephanie was here and if Susan Mack was still around and Bill's here and all very educated will say, get them young and you can take care of issues and get them so that they can read when they're supposed to be reading at their right level. And Dover had no special ed expenditures for a couple of years based on that theory and seemed to work really well. Again, there's, you know, you're fighting a health insurance increase and more students needing assistance and an occupational therapist. But that's not full-time, right? That's 28,000.
The portion of the service
Okay.
that goes to
It's
the.
what we actually had to move in there, so almost $30,000 of salary and benefits and for just OT.
Oh, an additional paraeducator.
So any one-to-ones are direct billed back to the district because it is something specific to that district. So we do that, though.
So if you look on page 2, Paul Harvey. Yeah, all the way at the bottom on the right, direct bill, so West River and Wyndham have a direct bill. And again, that's projecting out, and we could have a direct bill.
Correct.
So your total expenses and then the block grant, direct bill revenue from Act 4226, and then the LEA's base cost, and then total due comes up with your big number. And then based on ADM, again, we pay 27%. So our cost is,
For fiscal year '21 is 45,061.
yep, there it is.
So quite a big jump. Just to point out too, that when I was talking about the IDEA grant before, this is that 137, we're trying to put as much in the IDEA grant for early childhood as we can. Because there's not a reimbursement model, we're able to put that in there, so between the two, that uses up our IDEA federal grant between K through 12 and GCSE.
Or the one thing I'm missing, and I thought it was here, it doesn't show what, okay, 11,000 was our portion was 20 and it goes to 45, so it was 171. So you're up about, okay.
80,000,
I'm there.
47%.
So out of though that increase though, how much of that is because grants aren't as high?
It's not to do with the grant, that's just the additional, like I said, moving the services to ECSE, that's part of the increase. And also the 12% healthcare, all of that is all part of that number, so.
So our reimbursement for the block grant, the grant 4226 grant is pretty similar year over year.
The block grant for ECSE is about 60 to 65,000 a year.
Okay.
And that's all we
Consistent.
get.
You had talked about some of the grants starting to go away.
So for ECSE, it doesn't apply, but you're right, at the WCSU meeting, I talked about what does the K through 12 budget look like? What does that summary look like under Act 173? And immediately you can cross out that block grant, the 379,000, I think it is. Yeah. And so the reimbursement, the 3202 number, is the 2.4 million that we would get as a reimbursement from the AOE. That number becomes the census block model, or census block. And that's what Rich was talking about. That's going to be based on our previous 3 years, average 3 years of reimbursement. So, last year we got a little bit less than 2.4, and the year prior to that we got a little bit less than that. So they're going to average that and give it to us as one lump sum, basically. And so it will be a reduction for fiscal year 22 right now is what we're looking at, unless the legislature
Makes that change.
makes a change.
But there is some talk about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Bill, the South County Superintendent
Lincoln, yeah.
met with some legislators to talk about Act 173 and where it's at. Were you there too, Lori?
I wasn't,
But-
no, he filled me in.
So I guess from what I heard, it was very interesting. A lot of people got a lot of good information, and a lot of legislators kind of got their eyes open, or open. I guess it surprised them, or they were not aware of how.
Yeah, because Act 173 is really two-pronged. One is changing the funding mechanism, which is what we've been talking about with census. But the other one is changing fundamentally how you deliver education. And so they had 2 major studies done on what are the best practices that should be going on in a system-wide delivery of instruction, both classroom instruction, intervention, how you use special education. It's why we've made a lot of the changes we've made in the last couple of years of investing in academic support teachers, investing in specialists, reading specialists, math specialists, to follow the recommendations of the studies, because if you don't fundamentally change your system, then as Lori was pointing out, those $400,000 excess costs are just going to continue because you're not doing anything to bend the cost curve on what you can control. There's a lot of things that are out of your control, but there's a ton of stuff that is, and one of them is the delivery of education that we as professionals have an ability to do. It's just unbelievably different than what we've been doing for 25 years. So it takes time. It's a cultural change. And the principals and the teachers are on the front lines of that. And we're very fortunate to have a very strong group of principals leading that charge, but it still takes time.
We'll also prompt some regional collaboration.
Yeah.
Because everybody is going to want to save money. Because right now, when you save $1, you're really only saving 50 cents, broadly. But when you, under Act 173, when you save $1, you're saving $1. So, there'll be more emphasis on collaborating and some of these outside placements, doing some sort of collaboration with that.
Are the minutes out from last week's meeting yet?
Just posted today.
Okay. So we had about a 40-minute discussion on Act 173, and one of the things Stephanie talked about, our special ed director, is that she's trying to work with just within the county with some other supervisory unions to do things that we can maybe collaborate on.
Yeah.
Like if we have room for a program that maybe we can take a student and we can give a student to somebody else who has room. So, it's grown more than just, everybody's out for themselves. It seems like everybody's trying to work together, which is a good thing, which leads us into another really great topic. Everybody go, yay, because Mr. Antone has signed a 5-year agreement with Wyndham Central. Woo-hoo. So hopefully we'll have him for, the good Lord willing, the creek don't rise, another 5 years.
That's great.
Actually 5.5, because this year he was already committed. It's 5 years after this year.
Additional 5 years.
An additional 5, there you go. So, then that was by unanimous vote of the SU board. So thank you, Bill, for being there for us. And
We're heading in the right direction with the right people, and we're gonna keep moving.
cool. Old business, Transportation Committee report. So this is where they're all waiting in the wings. So Mark agreed to jump into the fire and go to the Transportation Committee. And we had a meeting, so there are minutes. Did everybody get the minutes of the transportation draft minutes? If not, I have a copy here I can pass out.
I have an extra copy also.
Okay. Oh, you got copies?
Those are the
Oh,
charts.
What is it?
no, those, they had to do some charts, but there's an extra 7 minutes. So, Mark, tell us how your transportation committee went.
It was a good meeting. We had 9 people show up, so it was a pretty good number of people there. The gist of the discussion was we broke down primary and secondary transportation. For primary, from a fiscal perspective, the way we're doing things is the best way right now. This is a spreadsheet that Chris Medina, the operations director, put together. Yep, that's all the same thing. If you look in the top left-hand corner, it's comparing the last few years of of our costs. In 18, there was an additional 25,000 for Dover because we had the Brattleboro, bus, which we no longer have. The 20, where does he have the 20? I think it's on here. We're looking at about 110,000 for fiscal year 20. Is that right, Lori?
It's the first I've seen this, so I'm
Oh,
just trying to
okay.
follow.
Yeah, looking at it, it's not the easiest thing to follow.
I don't see this page.
Yeah, it's not on here.
Okay.
He doesn't have 19 or 20.
We had one question, which Lori, I don't know if you can answer quickly. The Wardsboro transportation costs.
No, but it's on
From the
his
little
chart.
knowledge I have of the budget, I only saw 41,000, but the number that Chris had was 59.
Right, so there's, well, for River Valleys for fiscal year 20, that was the number, that we did a allocation for fiscal year 20. I think it was, right, Tammy? Yeah, because Wardsboro, we had just basically kept the legacy numbers rolling forward, and Wardsboro was losing a lot of students, so we reallocated. And so it dropped Wardsboro's portion of the WCSU transportation budget.
Okay, so 20 was the 59, 21 we're looking at the 41.
Right.
Okay.
So, but for River Valleys, we did also add, there was also $10,000 added to that for the Dover, Leland and Gray bus, is that correct?
It was in there, I don't know if it was
It was
added,
in
but
there.
it was in there. I think it was
Yeah.
11,000.
Okay,
Was
let
the
me just
Leland
see
and
if I
Gray.
have my, let's see my budget.
All right, so what it comes down to is the amount of money that we're spending now is less than we would be spending if we went with any of the other solutions. If we went with West River, currently can't take us on because they're going to be going to contract negotiations. But at their current cost per bus, we'd be looking at about $120,000 to do the entire district. Chris had spoken to Comescus, I don't know how you pronounce that, another bus company, and that was $230,000. Yeah. So we're actually doing really well with our current structure between the use of the Dover buses for Dover, West River for Wardsboro, and the committee felt that if we brought the field trips all in-house and used the current Dover buses, that we'd save a little bit of money. Chris was gonna ask Lori for that number because we didn't really know what that was, but that's probably in the neighborhood of, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, was my very rough guess. So primary-wise, the committee's recommendation is to do that, stay the course where we are now, and continue evaluating year over year, especially because the buses are going to start coming up for more repairs and replacements. So the committee is going to meet again at the beginning of December, and one of the agenda items that I want to put on there is to start planning for that, and that includes getting numbers. Chris ran some rough numbers, and this is if we were to add another bus and 2 bus drivers, I believe, to bring everything in-house, we'd be looking at an additional $174,000 for 1 year. That would include the cost of a bus.
84,000.
So it would be 84,000 is just the drivers, fuel and some of the other disposable costs. Which was why we said that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now. The idea is pretty much use these buses as long as we can, and evaluate the numbers as we get along in that process. One bus is 11 years old and one's 8?
I think they're not that old. I
Not
think
that
they're 9 and 7. Does that sound right, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite that old.
We got him the first year of Obama.
2010? Is that
Oh,
when
with Armin?
Eight.
Yes, it
was a-
well, it was,
That was eight.
parallel programs.
Yeah,
2010, I think, was the R
yeah.
money.
So we've got a number of years left on them. The drive, both Dover drivers and both Wardsboro drivers were at the meeting.
We don't get much over, I was starting to think they start falling apart about year 12 or 13.
That's still a decent number of years though.
Yeah,
By mileage, how many miles are on them?
well, a lot of it's
80
salt.
You had 88 and 60?
See, we were
Yeah.
told you're not allowed to undercoat buses, then we found out you are. And so we were actually undercoating our buses for a while. I don't know if we still do that or if that dropped off. But that made a huge difference because when we first went to the international buses, we got 4 years out of one and we were doing like some major body work. It just, the town uses a lot of salt. And then the mileage was fairly high too. And then when they had the special, deal where you could buy the energy efficient, better mileage buses, we got two, and we went off our schedule just because it made so much sense because we got like $40,000 towards a bus, and we actually gave a bus to West River because we had a bus that was to West River Transportation because it wasn't that old. All we had to do was prove that we destroyed a bus, because that was part of the deal.
That's part of it, yeah.
Right.
And so he gave us one of his old buses, and they basically had to put holes in the engine block and cut the frame in 3 spots or 4 spots. And it had to go to scrap. You couldn't even use parts off of it for anything.
Okay.
Spurred the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cash for clunkers.
Yeah, it was the same. So we did, and we actually, Lori, we did have money in our capital, well, we in Dover had a reserve fund dedicated towards the buses, because we figured the buses on a 10-year rotation. Every 10 years getting a new one. Because the other thing is then the old bus still had some value, instead of like waiting until it was just basically scrap and, not having any value. And then there comes a point when the repairs are so much higher than if you just, you spend more money in repairs and there's no reliability for it.
Sure.
And that seemed to be 10 years.
And that's why we want to start looking now into what we're going to do in the future.
I'll do some research for the bus grants because they come up every so many years.
Okay.
And see what's out there for that.
Do you usually just need to buy a new bus, or to not?
No, just that
Just to-
we have to plan, so we can plan to purchase new buses
Right.
as these go, or we can plan to outsource.
Outsource.
Right, so it's really just a matter of getting the numbers together to
Mhm.
figure out what's gonna be best for us moving forward.
Okay.
Because we really shouldn't just say that because we own the buses now, it's a better move. But we should, because every year, if
Yeah.
it's a $100,000 bus, and we got 2 or 3 of them, we should every year put 20 or 30,000 away towards replacement or.
Right, we need to make that decision
Right.
sooner than later.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's up to the board to decide whether,
Right.
want to do something. From a fiscal perspective, it doesn't make any sense.
So based on this, you're saying it's actually cheaper, assuming we can get the same kind of deal for.
West River's going into negotiations now, so
Right.
we'll know.
Because the other
we'll have more
company was pretty
information.
high. You said that.
Yeah.
They were almost double.
Yeah.
They were $425 per bus per day, and we would need 3 buses.
Right.
Because Wardsboro uses 2, Dover would need 1.
Mhm.
Currently, West River is $235 per bus per day.
Okay.
But they can't take us on.
They can't take us on. Right, got it. Okay.
So just one of the things from, I know Carrie's perspective was last year, and part of the perspective going to, the supervisory union taking over transportation was that, if you look at it as at the district level, so like if we send a bus to Leland and Gray, why couldn't that bus pick up kids in Newfane on the way to Leland and Gray and drop them off at the school in Newfane? even though it's not our district. I think that was more the global thing that Carrie was looking for.
Which
And I
they're
think
doing
that's
now.
what Lori wants to start looking at, and Chris wants to start looking at. I just don't think there's, again, there's a lot going on, and there isn't the time now, but I think that would be where we could maybe have some savings, or.
Well, we were
For
supposed to
secondary.
get some savings in Wardsboro because we were picking up Jamaica kids on the way through, right?
Right.
I mean, isn't that what happened originally? This is years back.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, maybe the
Do they-
numbers never came
Do
through.
they pick up now?
Sure.
Yeah, they pick up all the kids along the way,
pick up,
right?
right?
Yeah.
They do.
But that's probably why your contract, why you went
Right,
down.
well-
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is I mean,
Yeah.
all the East Stover kids could be picked up, and all the South Newfane kids could be picked up. And, you know,
Right.
there's a fund to make the whole more efficient for whoever takes it on,
Yeah,
which is really what we should look at, I guess, for future.
right, which is,
Well, West River has said they don't feel that there are any more efficiencies that they could find in the system. This year, they are doing the Newfane, the Dover kids to Newfane, and
Right.
going to Brattleboro.
Mhm.
Todd was pretty clear that he didn't feel there were any other
Mhm.
efficiencies that they were gonna be able to find. And that they don't have the capacity right now to take this.
Yeah,
They-
exactly.
They're
No, so I
gonna,
mean,
they're
it's
gonna
really
have
a
to
moot
buy
point for this
buses.
year. You're right,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, you have the best
Yeah.
system that we can have for this year. I'm just
Um,
saying, globally, if we were to
Right.
study it, there might be more efficiencies.
Well,
Maybe
Chris,
Todd's not the
I
person
talked
to
to
look
Chris
at it.
about whether he was going to be looking at a SU-wide transportation, and he's not going to be, because he feels that from a numbers perspective, West River is providing,
For max.
yeah, I mean, their numbers
Maxed
are,
out, Marlboro is content with their current system.
well, and they have their own.
And they just bought,
They're leasing.
they're leasing a bus.
which is something we could look into, was leasing,
Which is another option.
yeah. So we still have a lot of work to do at the committee level. But we wanted to get this to the board right away since the budget was being worked on right now.
Looks like it was spirited.
That, the primary wasn't so spirited.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
your charge was not so spirited.
The secondary transportation was quite spirited. Matt, do you have, everybody has there? This is a chart of current students in the district and what secondary schools they go to. We currently provide transportation to Leland and Gray, to Brattleboro through West River and at the Newfane School, and Twin Valley through Mover, right? Does Mover actually go to Twin Valley? Okay.
And the mover also goes to Brattleboro
Right.
through a different route. They go Route 9 versus Route 30 for West River.
So those three public schools, people have the ability to get to through transportation provided via this district. The question came up as to whether or not we could provide transportation essentially to BBA in addition. And if you look at the numbers of students that go to the different schools, the top four are BBA, Brattleboro, Twin Valley, and Leland and Gray, by a lot. They're all in double digits, and all the other schools, with the exception of, well, all the other schools are single digits. Mountain School is the only one that's got 3. My understanding is that that would be the middle school for for BBA. So the discussion was, the bus drivers had some concern about the actual physical transportation, the weather. There was some concern about the cost involved in paying the driver, because you're talking about an hour and a half drive each way. And then they'd be possibly deadheading back, and then back again. So essentially, you're talking about 6 hours of driving in an 8-hour day.
That's if the weather's good.
That's if, right,
That's
exactly,
right.
that's if the weather's good.
Right.
So, what the committee wanted to do was to get an idea of how many students in the district would take advantage of that transportation if it was made available. So, we asked Bill if he could ask his administrators to do that, and then further discussion between myself and Bill and myself and Rich was to bring that to the board to decide whether we wanted to go that route. I know I'm missing some things, but there were two parents there, one from each school. Both of them would like to see it, one more than the other, but, and feel that there would be a lot of parents that would take advantage of it, of going to BBA, if given that.
Providing transportation.
Right, if transportation was provided, that they would send their kids there. So there was some discussion about how we could provide the transportation, whether we had a bus or we contracted with West River to go from Dover to Wardsboro to PPA, or just Wardsboro to PPA, and parents would have to get to Wardsboro from Dover, or possibly asking PPA, one, if they would provide a bus. I mean, if we're sending them all these students, would they provide a bus? And if they won't, will they provide a bus halfway? They would meet our bus at like 130, the junction. So once we decide what we're going to do about getting these numbers, Chris will speak to BBA about that.
They already had, there is an existing bus from Stratton, isn't there?
From Stratton, there is, it's in, Chris said they're at capacity.
They are.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if we want to poll the, I guess it's current 6th grade families, I thought we could just do an informal poll that Tammy and Matt could kind of just ask the parents.
Well, would it be 8th grade families?
But we don't have 8th grade.
No,
So,
they're looking at having you ask 6th grade.
yeah, 6th
Would you
grade.
choose Burn if we provide you transportation there?
And that may change their mind on what they do for middle school, so.
That's easy enough.
So the question is, I guess, to the board, do we want to do that?
So 3 out of the 4 currently we have busing to 3 out of the 4, the top high schools. The kids-
Well, the public schools.
The public, yeah, right.
Or public schools.
I mean, and that's really, to be honest, that's what it boils down to. When the parents in Dover came to town meeting and asked for the town to pay the extra money so they could attend Burton. You know, one of the things they said was, we're not gonna ask you for transportation because we're asking you to go above the statewide average to pay for our child to go to Burton. We'll make the arrangements to get them there. And it was pretty adamant that was, you know, that you shouldn't come back and ask for transportation there. And because there's just no easy way to get that from Hale.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that was quite contentious, I think, because the following year there was, you know, somebody was mentioning that maybe we would look for transportation, and one person stood up and said, "You promised us," you know, and some people have longer memories than I. I have talked to Mark.
I don't know about that.
Was it Mark? Is Mark still the headmaster over there?
Yes, Mark Tation.
So I actually asked Mark at one time, would you be willing to send the bus halfway and or do something, because, you know, there may be more income for you with students. And he was pretty adamant at that time, and that was back when Bill was still our administrator, that he did not ever believe the trustees would ever approve something like that. Now, again, trustees change, as do situations where we're now 2 towns, not just 1 town. So that's just a historical perspective from Dover. I know going to Wardsboro town meetings before we joined that, you know, there was some people made comments that they shouldn't pay any extra to go to a private school, and that you guys kind of up that in stages, I think, to get to the Burton number. So I don't know, has the transportation ever been discussed with you folks too?
I don't think it's anything about that.
It hasn't come up, but that is only because last year was, like you said, we did it in stages, and last year was just
The first year?
the first year of being ascending town.
And then, did that increase a lot of the students going
I think it
to
did.
Bergen?
I think it did. I don't know the numbers, but from because actually my child goes there and sort of varies. We've seen an increase in the number of students that are going, but I don't know the numbers previously.
I would say they've doubled.
Doubled.
Since you became a sending school?
Yeah, but I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm not hearing a lot of parents, and Barry and I are parents that have kids that go to BVA that are clamoring for transportation.
And would it make sense, I'm sorry, Dwight, to actually ask the folks that are already sending kids
Yes.
there whether they would use transportation? Because I know a lot of the kids participate in after-school activities, so when would the bus run?
Well, this is
You know
the-
what I mean?
right, and,
I think you get into, if there's 13 students that are going, how many of them are just participating in after-school where they wouldn't be able to get on the bus all the way home anyway? So,
That's my question too,
I mean, so would going back to the parents that are sending students there right now, would that be something that would,
well, that's the thing
want to
too.
discuss
The
also?
kids start driving now earlier and earlier. You have juniors and seniors who are driving on their own, and I would think the kids that go to the public schools also are driving, and they're not taking the buses. So I think that would be kind of similar in that respect. And they have after-school activities as well that they can't take back. So I think that's the same, whether they go to private or public. But for me, it'd be great to have a bus go in the morning and not in the afternoon. But that's that would be better. But I don't hear a lot of. We have a great carpool and that kind of thing. So it's not as if when we understand it's a longer distance and a larger expense.
It's a little closer for you guys.
Right. It's part of the, absolutely. We knew what we were going to use it into. Yeah, no question about it. But if parents are asking for it and the numbers are increasing, something to please consider.
Yeah, I think you just crunch a bunch of numbers, table it, see what you guys come up
Yeah.
with for numbers. And, it's,
But I would have like 3 kids come back on a bus in the afternoon would be disastrous to go an hour back.
Well, that's, I think Matt could speak to that, that's right, with the Brattleboro run it.
But is it, so currently there are 2 buses going to Brattleboro, is that
Well,
correct?
yeah, there's the,
Well, mover and
mover.
the bus. So we pay for 2 buses to go to
well, we
Brattleboro.
don't pay for the mover, we make a donation to them.
Is it donation money?
Yeah, it's,
It's not, it's a token.
All right, okay.
It's not a whole lot
All
of
right,
money.
tax deductible?
yeah, no, but what it was
We don't
is,
pay taxes.
there's some parents that didn't want, because anybody could ride the mover. It's not
Yeah.
reserved just for students. So, I mean, I know one family, I just talked to them last week. They have a 7th grader that's riding the mover and they think it's the greatest thing in the world for the child. And there's other people that don't want their 8th or 9th grader riding
Right.
public transportation because of,
Your
you don't know who could be on the
They're on the
bus.
bus.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's a really, and remember, we're talking about people's kids, we're not talking about, people's dogs or their cars, and it's very important to them, and people feel very strongly, so
Yeah.
that's why transportation's always been something that's packed the house,
Yeah.
when you bring it up.
Yeah.
So I guess the question comes down to, do we want to ask the administrators to poll people? And, I think the question you ask is very important, how you ask it, the exact question, because I don't think we want to let people think that we are going to do this just because you want it.
Right. That's right.
Or, but I think, so, I think it's a difficult thing, and I think you're also going to run into at least in Dover, some people that will say, hey, you guys promised us you'd never ask for transportation.
What year was that?
Not that long ago, it was when Bill was here.
Yeah.
How many years have you been gone?
That was before my daughter went to middle school, so 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
But I know it's come up again.
Let's come up with this board.
Yeah.
Is there 2 buses from Wardsboro that go to Leland Gray as well? I heard that in the last meeting, I wasn't sure, but they must share with
It's
different
more the
towns.
route than anything. The bus isn't full, it's the route.
It's the route,
One
though.
goes
It's not
through
'cause-
South.
Right, it's not because it's the route, so one goes through Newfane and one goes up,
Right.
Right.
yeah, okay.
It's the route that is designed based on the students we
So
have.
they pick up the South. Lawrence and Newfane kids on
And
that.
Newfane, the other one picks up the Jamaican kids.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So if you guys will indulge me for a minute, Laura couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted me to just read, or just put into our thoughts. So, there was the 6 action items she mentioned. She agrees with the first 3, stay the course for the next year, clarify with Ms. Garland the cost of, West River for Wardsboro, and have Mr. Medina and Ms. Garland work on the cost for the Wardsboro field trips, On the other ones about the speak to the BBA parents and West River costs of bus and request the superintendent to have an informal poll. She's, one of the things she says is it's important to remember the most significant budget control we have is in our elementary schools. While secondary education costs or SU costs increase, we must either raise taxes to meet the need or cut the elementary budget to manage the costs. In Wardsboro and Dover, students have secondary choice. While BBA is likely the current largest private school recipient, we've sent students to a dozen other private schools. I support number 4 and having the district contact BBA on behalf of the families to see if they would send a bus to pick up students for free or at a discounted rate for the parents. I've not yet found a rationale by which I would agree to raise taxes and transportation to private schools, or worse, cut our elementary program and transportation for private schools. For this reason, I do not support them taking on number 4, and I'm strongly opposed to the superintendent polling parents to ask how many would attend if we provided transportation, unless we are also prepared to ask that question for every single private school, River Valley Union High School students. Well, there really isn't a River Valley Union High School. Students have attended. And she apologizes for missing the meeting, but that was just her thoughts. So, what do we want to do, folks?
Well, I don't see the harm in getting more information. Not finding out information is never been helpful to anyone. I don't necessarily agree with you, the way the question being asked that way, would you send your kid there if you cut transportation? I don't necessarily agree with that question. Maybe I have to think about that a little more.
A hard time disagreeing with what Laura had to say. I think if you ask the question, you're going to get people's hopes up, no matter how you ask it. My opinion.
Barry, thoughts?
I agree with that, but I also agree with Dwight on the other hand. That if there's, how much backlash is there going to be if we don't look into it? Look into some numbers, see what people say, but and a lot of people might just say, it doesn't make sense. And like I said, I know with my daughter, she's got after-school programs every day, and so a bus in the afternoon seems kind of ridiculous. Like you said, bus in the morning would be kind of epic. But
That would put plenty of kids on it.
And it's going to all come down to money, and that's the.
I don't see raising the budget for that, to be
No.
honest. I agree with Laura on that point. I wouldn't be, so I'm not sure if that's what you mean by getting their hopes up, by saying, we'll do this if we can stay under budget,
Do a revenue.
Right. So,
That's gonna happen.
that's not gonna happen, so.
But maybe, BBA, if they came back and said, listen, we'll do it, but, parents are
I
gonna have
would-
to kick in as costs. I'm pretty sure that the bus that comes to I think they meet at the Welcome Center in Stratton. If you're a Wardsboro resident, you can get your kid on that bus as long as there's availability, but I think there's a cost involved.
There's a cost
I think
involved.
it's like $800 a year or something like
Right,
that.
so you can get on that
So
bus
you're-
if you weren't willing to pay.
Right.
There might be some kids that use that bus. don't know.
No names.
No names there. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mark, I'm giving you a chance to weigh in. So you brought the facts now.
And now opinions.
Yeah.
Um,
What are your thoughts?
My first thought is, I do strongly believe that public money should go to public school. That said, public money is not just going to public school. We are paying for kids to go to BBA. And if you toss this in with the, I think what is the next topic on the agenda, equity. An opportunity for many more students to go there that absolutely would not be able to. Parents can't afford to take the time to drive them, don't have the vehicle to drive them in, et cetera, et cetera. I think it could be a way that we provide some additional equity.
So you haven't decided yet.
Oh, no, I absolutely haven't decided. I absolutely haven't decided. I do think that, and I think, Rich, you disagree with me on this, that if we have the numbers to show BBA, hey, you know, you're going to double your enrollment from us if you provide the bus. I think that would give them incentive.
I just know the last time, Bill, and I think you were involved with that with me.
Oh, yeah, no, I asked you.
Didn't we meet with him for breakfast or something? And I think his thing is the trustees have been approached by a lot of different places for that. And if they, again, it's kind of like an equity thing. If they do it for one, they got to do it for all. And where do they say no? And, you know, and then, they're becoming a bus company instead of a educational institute. But again, I'm speaking for them, and it's 8 years ago or 6 years ago or, whatever. So, I think could it boil down to that we're all okay with seeing if they wanted to do something, even if there had to be a stipend paid by the families. And, that kind of falls into what everybody agreed to, if you cover the extra tuition, by becoming a sending town, we'll cover getting our child there. The other more sticky part of this conversation is, do we want to poll? And I think polling sixth grade parents is a little more difficult because they can't go to Bernburg until they're in ninth grade anyways. So, I almost think somebody said something about poll those that go now and see how many would actually use the bus. Maybe more informational than, asking somebody for, what are you going to do in 3 years?
I kind of agree. I would certainly like for the transportation committee to just continue to explore this, to see if there's a way, because I'm sure there'll be more parents that are going to ask for it. So if you continue to explore it, find ways that can stay within budget and maybe meet some of those needs for equity would be great. But I don't know if a poll is necessary either. And I think, but as long as people know that you're still researching and looking into it, maybe helpful.
And just to throw one other thing out that maybe we're missing is that, remember, we go back this year to voting from the floor on the budget, which does not prevent anybody from coming in and saying, I move that we increase the bottom line of the budget, by $25,000 to provide transportation. And if there's a second, then there gets to be discussion, and then there's a vote.
If that happens, does the 25 have to go towards transportation?
No, we have bottom line responsibility, so you cannot adjust the line item, but you can adjust the bottom line. But as a politician, which we kind of are a little bit, we just don't drink the Kool-Aid. If the voters give us money to do something with and we don't do it, then, it's a little harder to get reelected.
Right.
So, it's kind of, do you do what the public, wants, or do you do what you think is right?
Yeah.
I guess so. No, we don't have to, but we probably should. And the Dover board has always said, we will do what you guys say, because the voters are always right.
It's their money.
Yeah, but even though, you have 1,000 voters and you have 150 of them at town meeting, so it's, less than 20% of the people are even there to participate.
It'll be even less for ours.
So, is everybody okay with letting the superintendent approach or does it want to be Chris? Well, somebody from the SU would approach Burton about doing something with transportation. So we're all in agreement on that, or is there anybody that doesn't?
Might be 2 minutes of his time.
Yeah.
How are you? No.
And that doesn't mean getting a new bus either. I mean, if they could, I don't know what size bus they have going from Stratton, if it's full, I mean, that's a full.
They have,
think full-
they
I think
have
it's
a number
every-
of buses that they don't, because they don't do most morning transportation or
Yeah.
afternoon transportation.
Yeah.
Chris has dealt with them on a number of things, so I'm just going by based on what he said. But I don't think it can't hurt to ask.
Right.
It's always worth a try. Second question is there going to be any kind of polling? And if there is, who's getting polled and what's the question? Or do you want to sit on that one and come back to it at another time?
I'll just say that I think if we're gonna poll, I think we need to poll sixth graders in addition. Correct me if I'm wrong, administrators, but parents start to make that decision about high school when their students are in sixth grade, no?
Well, 5th grade, 4th grade.
For the
Okay.
most part, not
We
always.
have middle school information night, week after next, and the 4th grade students are invited, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Now remember, some families, may have multiple children and decisions made for the child anyways by where the first child goes. There's very few families we've seen that actually allow their children to go to all different schools because it's really difficult.
Driving.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
I think before we poll anything, we contact BBA, get a little more information before we even
And then we can
send
discuss
the
it.
question.
Yeah, I would totally
So we're
agree with
sitting
that.
on
We need to
that.
know.
So we have
We
at
can't,
least some kind of,
yeah,
something
exactly. Yeah,
instead of just jumping right into the poll.
I would think so. What are we talking about, If it's
Another
not
2
if
weeks.
it's not feasible, yeah, open the cart before the horse. It's not feasible. We know it's not gonna happen, then why poll?
Okay, so we're just going to, in the minutes, we're just going to ask Chris or we're going to ask Bill to whoever he wants to do the work, because that's kind of the cool thing about being the man in charge. To just talk to Burn and see what they're, and we're not going to do any polling yet.
So could you say specifically what you want him to ask them?
Burn's willing to work with some kind of transportation for parents of kids who, from West River, or from the River Valley School that want to attend over there. Be it there, there's a charge or,
Look at all the options.
yeah, if they're willing to do anything to assist.
Also, how do you appoint 2 kids that go to, just curious about that.
We asked that question also. I assume that's an ADM thing.
Lori could give you that answer, but we would be here for another 45 minutes to an hour before she got it all out.
It was actually 232. There's not supposed to be a point there.
Oh,
Okay,
all right.
real quick, folks, equity, calendar for discussion. Bill, do you have a calendar for that yet or not? No.
I don't want you guys to discuss anything but budget until the budget's done.
Okay, so that's not my question. My question was, do you have a calendar for us on that?
I do not.
Okay.
January
Website to sign, so that kind of fits in the budget a little bit. And then residency policy work, and then you're going
I'm
to,
currently working on that
Yep.
to give you guys a draft.
okay. New business, quickly, Matt and Tammy, not to rush you, but do you have anything going on with the schools we ought to know about?
We are, Wardsboro's having their artist in residency this week, who is Troy Wonderly. And we will have a circus show on Friday evening at 6 p.m. Other than that, we will hold a community lunch on December 12th at 12 o'clock, and anyone's welcome to attend.
When's yours, Matt?
December 12th at 12 o'clock. We're collaborating.
I love it.
Oh, is it, no, it's not the same, is it? Oh, everybody's gonna be in the same
Oh,
building?
no, just
No.
they're,
Oh,
they're at the
wow.
same
Same time.
We want you to do it different so that the board
Go
can
to
go
both.
to 2 lunches.
Yeah, we're gonna get too much.
Well, hurry right over, it's only 20 minutes.
Depends on the weather.
And then hit the other.
Eat twice, I like it.
Okay. Matt, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay, I'm not sure. I
Catching
got
up
all
on
that.
minutes.
Same, community lunch, middle school information night is the only other big thing we do, like an arena style in the gym, and the schools come, and they get a table, and they get to pitch their school to our students that have choice. And families get a chance to kind of get a sense of what the schools are about, and, yeah, so.
Cool.
Did you talk about website design, or did you figure that out?
We just, no, it's just there as a placeholder,
Okay.
and it's gonna be covered a little bit by budget conversation too. Okay, so then, the next thing I have is Lori,
So we went,
financial review.
so we went through the budget.
You know what, Lori, let's do this if you don't mind. Why don't you come right up and join us? Well, that way,
Got invited to the big table.
hey, Bill, you can come up too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Bill's
Thanksgiving.
in the back of it.
Yeah, and if you guys are noisy, you're getting no dessert, no pumpkin pie, with cream. I know, it's
Come
fine,
on,
but-
Tammy.
Now we messed up the, I'm
Right there,
sorry.
Rich. See that?
Camera and everything.
Sorry.
Back of the head.
Okay, Lori, go ahead.
So we went through the budget very quickly last time. I gave you a quick overview, so I hope you've had some time to look at it. And we can start with, basically, the first couple of pages are just talking about the guiding principles that were used for this budget development. These were created by Matt and Tammy, and just how we looked at the budget and how we made plans. Then on the fourth page, sorry, I always forget to do my pages. To the third page, it gives a breakdown of the increase year over year. We talked a little bit about that, and then I think you also have another document that we handed out tonight that says, what are the factors in the budget increase?
Yep.
Sorry, I can't read it.
You can't read sideways?
No, thank you.
Does everybody have theirs?
They're twice.
So these are just a breakdown, basically very similar to this, but a breakdown of that. Want me to keep going?
Now, hang on one second, everybody, is everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay.
All right, so the first budget that you're looking at, or first piece of the budget, is the pre-K. So I've put in some notes there, and I think that we just should talk about your questions, or ask your questions. If I don't have the three of us don't have an answer right away, then we'll get to that.
One of the things we noticed was not in here is elementary school student counts.
Elementary school student counts, got it. So I'm gonna look to your elementary school principals.
So this budget was based on current enrollment, and at Wardsboro, it's 41.
Does that, and that does include, or does include preschool?
It does include pre-K.
In Dover, it's 95, which
Include
does
pre-
include pre-K.
How many pre-K, I guess?
So 136 altogether, if I learned math right.
Quick too.
Mrs. Twitchell on here, well.
How many pre-K together?
That's 16 if you include the 3-year-olds, so a total of 21.
We have 5.
So 20, okay, so the first budget that you're looking at, first piece, is 21 students. That represents that.
That's better than $10,000.
Question for you in line, Jesus, Did you bring the rulers?
Yes, I do. I have my rulers. Bring the rulers.
I think it's line 16.
Tuition to private,
Yeah.
5562?
I just want to know what that account title is.
What is it?
Yeah,
Tuition to private Vermont elementary,
okay.
but it's for pre-K students. So that is a set rate. And so the 11,400 is going to represent 4 students at $3,800.
Those are rough numbers right now.
What are you reading from, Bill?
5562, tuition to private Vermont.
No, where were you reading? It was 5 students
He
at.
just knows
Oh,
that.
he just knows
because
it.
he
Oh, I
knows
know
what
it's
the reimbursement
3,800.
is.
3,800
He knows
students,
how to divide.
So it's 3. It's 3 students at 38.
Thanks,
Right.
Rick, making me feel like
Oh,
I'm.
you did pretty good with it.
And when the December 1st commissioner's letter comes out, that'll actually set the rate for that, so we'll have better numbers there. And we'll, we're always looking to see if there will be more or less as we go, so, until it's set.
So like in 5562, what Mark just asked about in the notes, would you like to have 3 students?
No, that's fine. I mean, unless the board does. I'm gonna ask Lori for a cheat sheet for
Isn't this
meeting,
cheat
but
sheet?
let's not do it. Well, yeah, so if you wanna add it to the notes.
Like, this will not, the notes, the individual notes will not go out with the budget to the
Okay.
public. That's for you all to know.
Right, you all.
You all?
Y'all.
Okay.
Just so we're clear, pre-K is pre-kindergarten, right? Even though in your school, they're in the same classroom, right? Okay.
They're accounted for different.
3-year-old, they either classify them as 3-year-olds or
3-year-olds.
4-year-olds. You have to be 3 by September
By September
1st,
Right.
according to law and your policy.
Not policy. Yeah.
And that was a change from last year's budget, if you look at line,
16.
line 5. The 511, the teachers, we moved 0.5 of a teacher, so we split. Because in Wardsboro, the pre-KK teacher was always just in direct instruction, so to give us a better idea of what food
Yeah,
costs.
no, it's a better account.
Okay.
And then we're moving on, the next page, this is.
Well, hang on then, before you get too far, I'm gonna, nothing personal, so please don't take it that way. But I used to always ask this when I didn't make the budget up. So where can you cut 10% in this budget for me?
10%?
Is there anywhere you can cut anything in this budget, this section of the budget? I was just shooting for 10, but do 20 if you feel easy.
So can I support you in an answer?
Sure.
So if you look back at the guiding principles of this budget development, the most appropriate place that we would ask that question is to our administrators who are day-to-day on the floor with our students and our teachers. So we're more than happy to answer that, but I think the more appropriate people that we would ask that to would be to our principals.
But they're hiding in the back.
No, they just weren't invited to the head
Yeah, they
table.
were, I said to come on up. It's not my fault they didn't want to come
I
up.
think it's an absolutely valid question. I just would want to make sure that we give you a very reliable answer.
Well, I'll ask my educational leader.
And I would say I can get you an answer, but I'm going to go ask them.
Go for it.
Okay. Is there anywhere in lines 4 through 21 that you could anticipate cutting 10%?
And don't be afraid to cut 20.
Don't be afraid to cut 20.
So 10% is 25,000.
Not at first sight. We'd have to
Well,
either.
the 20, you can only do the 10.
20%, 10% is 25,000. So we would have to cut health insurance from the employees or reduce the positions to, some fractional FTE. I would love to see us reduce the amount of tuition we pay to private pre-Ks that are not ours, but
Okay.
that may not be in our control. And that's only about 5%, maybe just under 5%, so it wouldn't quite get to 10.
But you can't cut that.
Right.
So there really is anywhere you
So the quick answer is not without making cuts to the program.
you can't
Reductions.
cut the program. We're offering it. And
Yeah.
You've got to have a person there, right?
Right. We want to make sure our programs are strong and that they're attractive and they're good. And, so,
You could always just move the money back that Lori moved into it.
Okay, Larry. I'm sorry.
That would be a sleek way of doing it, wouldn't it, Matt?
you could do that.
Okay, Larry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. So then the next page is starting into the elementary combined budgets. So it represents 12 teachers, first line. A .20 for duties para, both at Wardsboro and Dover. Substitute, you see the note, check this. I only pulled over the number. I want to see what the fiscal year 19's actuals would look like, so, or where we're running for 22.
But we also put some money aside for professional development, so and if staff is going away for professional development while school's in session, so should part of that money we said that was going for like the STEM, should that be moved over into there, or should that, if there's substitutes for that, does that come out of a separate line item?
It all comes out of this line.
That
item,
line item.
Yeah.
So we should just need to make a note, maybe a good note for that would be, with the IB and the STEAM stuff, that there may be, that may be an indirect cost that's showing up in that line item for us.
One of the line items, 29, I just wanted to point out, so you have actually, I had put in for the budget for 20 unemployment, but you actually have a pay-as-you-go versus paying into an insurance. So that's why you see a reduction in that there. Now, that being said, it's not necessarily a bad idea to budget something in case you do have an unemployment claim.
Can we used to do a payroll services section in the budget that we would put like salary increases in, because if they hadn't been negotiated, it would just be a pot of money that we would take out of, and then we had all the insurances, the unemployment, the workers' comp in that line item, because, it's all total payroll, it's not broken out individually. Does that make sense then, maybe? If we're not gonna have numbers in the individual ones, to do that, and then you can move it into the line item for us if it's actually spent?
I think I understand what you're saying. I have a little different view on it just because I believe in total employee cost and total program cost. So if you really want to know what your total program cost is for direct instruction or for PE or for any of these things, then I like to include all of those insurances in those line items.
But if we may not use it, that's why if we put it in another, if we just do, that employment expenses or whatever we want to call it, then if you actually need it in a line item, like let's say we have to pay unemployment for a elementary preschool person, be a one-on-one or something, then you would take that money from that line item in the kind of like this little reserve area, and then put it over there, so we would know at the end of the year what we truly spent. But if we don't spend it, it doesn't show up there, and if we don't spend it, it's still in that other budgeted area.
Okay.
Just a thought. I mean, you have to see how it works with your programs and stuff, because it's back in the old days when programs weren't so sophisticated.
It's definitely can be done that way. Are we talking, I guess I would just need clarification on what we're talking about. Are we talking about just unemployment? Because right now, that's the only thing that's not
Right.
budgeted there.
Right.
Okay.
But we may want to, in the future, like if we're in negotiations and we haven't figured out a number, so maybe we could just set that category up, but like this year, there'll be nothing in the raises or the compensation, but you would always have some number that you feel comfortable just in case, and we would rely on you to tell us what we should put in there for, just for that one, right now, the pay as you go.
Right, yeah, no, I agree. You can do that, especially in a negotiations year. A couple of different ways you can, that it can be visually in the budget. So, and that's one of them. That's a great way to do it. Does anybody have any questions on this section?
The purchase service, I'm assuming, cancels out the decrease in the wages?
Yes.
It doesn't cancel that out, it's $15,000 more, but close enough, I guess, for
So,
budgeting purposes.
2 questions.
Oh, hang on.
It's
Oh,
also,
sorry.
it's
Okay.
also
I'm all
in
set.
healthcare too, though,
Okay.
so, yes.
Oh, sorry. 34.
Other tax services. So this is another word for this. Some of these account titles came from the new system, so it's a little not deceiving, but
Unclear.
unclear. Another word for this would be enrichment, right? This is another, what we would consider enrichment.
Because it's Kuwait and field trip.
Correct. So part of this is the field trip funding that you had asked about. We also have our Four Winds program. B is paid out of this line, as well as Keewaydin.
So what do we pay for Kuwait now?
It's 3.
It's about 300.
No, I mean, what do we pay versus the students' fundraise, and do we just pay the full thing and?
We were just chatting about that,
Uh-oh.
and we realized we uncovered an area of inequity. So Wardsboro pays it all, and Dover has been paying half, and families have been paying the other half. So that's something we were just talking about.
Well, luckily, we're not gonna be talking about equity for a while,
Got a few
because
months.
we couldn't get that on the calendar. But no, what do we do with that, Bill?
I would,
Because that
it's
can't happen.
It's 300 for total cost.
Roughly.
So we have 8 sixth graders in Wardsboro.
Correct.
So I would add 8 times $150 to the budget right now. And
Well,
make it
Wardsboro-
equitable.
No.
Wardsboro pays the full fares.
Oh, Wardsboro pays the full, I'm sorry, the opposite.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was the parents are paying the
confused
whole
you.
thing.
No.
How many sixth graders do you have in Dover?
Well, we said fifth graders, and there
No,
are
how many fifth graders?
14 of them.
14, then I would pose the question of budgeting 14 times $150,
$2,100.
$2,100.
You're good.
So where's that 2,100, where are we gonna save 2,100 in this section of the budget?
I do not know, but I will ask my 2 administrators if you were asked to save $2,100 in this section of the
Oh,
budget.
God, no, that's
Doesn't mean
it's
this
not
enough.
enough. Or more.
Well, at a minimum, I'm starting with
There you go.
2,100.
Good man. Well, actually, is there any other questions on any of the other line items in the budget?
Just 35, what is the account title?
So these are non-technology repairs.
Repairs,
Yeah,
okay.
repairs, sorry.
Classroom,
Yeah, so this is.
desks and chairs.
Right.
I actually see that the Director of Operations is keeping an inventory of equipment we have between buildings.
Wow. That's great.
So that if somebody needs like a desk, instead of a school buying one, they can go steal one from another school. What happens if that school needs a desk the following year? Does it come back, or does that school buy the desk?
We haven't made a policy, but it is an agreement that if Townsend needs their table back that they loaned us, that the principal will call me and we'll make it happen.
So is there any other questions in these line items? Is there any questions on the overall numbers besides can you save any money anywhere?
I'll just point out one other thing that we did do for equity is the consumables for classrooms is all, and actually it's SU-wide, which is great. I should say asterisk Marlboro maybe, but $50 per student in the classroom for consumables. So those are, and correct me if I'm wrong, workbooks and things like that that don't.
Paper, pencils, art supplies.
So, Matt and Tam, you guys, I'll ask it so I don't have to make Bill do it. Is there any place that you see any savings in those sections?
So that's already significantly reduced, right?
Right.
So
Well-
it's up.
Well, it's up
3%.
3.6%, so 0.6%. So I wouldn't say it was significantly reduced.
The amount per student for supplies is lower than it was last year. So there may be other things that are up, but,
Well, you got two consumables, because you got non-library consumables, and then you got classrooms books and periodicals.
So those are things like book jackets and all those types of things, right, of the library,
I think we have that in the library section.
in the library section.
Okay. You guys all set with that section? Moving right along. You want to do the whole page, you're going to do it by section?
Well, why don't I ask by section? So we have the art.
The arts.
So there are two different ways that art is used or purchased. So in Dover, there is an art teacher, so that is an employment, and in Wardsboro, it is a purchase service from the SU.
So why don't we just purchase it all from the SU and then that was.
Because we're actually looking at all of these different areas of the budget. We're actually looking at and seeing what is the better way to do things.
So just for a high-level look, when you purchase something from the supervisory union, then they are working under a different contract. And when you create something under River Valley's contract, that's obviously under a different contract. So it's really creating the flexibility for purchasing the service that matches the needs of what you need for River Valleys. So that's what we're kind of doing right now, is we are looking with Matt and Tammy, what is the needs that they have for running their building, and what is the best place in which? Is it to purchase the service, or is it to have an employee?
And I'm sorry, I was reading this wrong. I was reading that Wardsboro had half a day and Dover had a full day, so I thought Dover had a full-time person and Wardsboro had a part-time, like a half-time person. But you're actually, total between the two buildings, you only have a 0.3, so it's just 1.5 days per week.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Any other questions for Art? Moving along to world language. This was an increase, the position became a licensed teacher. The teacher became a licensed teacher. So there was an increase in that salary. It was also a purchase service before and needed to be an employee.
Purchase through WCSU?
No, it was a contracted service is a better word.
You could contract the service before the person became licensed. Once they became licensed, they had to be paid as a teacher.
Everybody good with that?
That's not a huge increase, is it? Or am I missing something here?
It's 43%.
It's going from 15 to 21.
Are we on world language?
Yeah.
No, no,
Just
no.
one line item?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 56%.
I mean, it's $6,000, but it's 43%.
Just the one line.
Overall, though, it's 56% increased, 85.39.
Oh, it's just a-
Okay, sorry.
Okay, moving down to band, not
Well,
not
it's-
really a significant increase. We did add some equipment. There's some replacements of band equipment that needs to happen.
Is that in the individual buildings, or is that something that the person that's kept at WCSU has brought around?
It needs to be in the individual building for the equipment. The person that is doing that
This
is
moves
the
around.
one that,
They travel.
right, they travel.
Perfect, thank you.
And then there also is some music education. So that was band, the 1111 is band, and 1112 is the education piece of it, and that is a purchase service from the SU. Which I believe is .3 and .1. Am I right about that? Yeah. I need to have my other budget up on even
That's
dual
cool.
screens. PE, again, this is very similar to art, where there is a teacher in-house and then a purchase service within the same area of the budget. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
Anybody, I'm sorry.
Nope.
And that's all rolled together, right? All of the benefits and everything are all rolled into that number, right?
Into the 18102, yes, on line 70. For the purchase service, that is the total program cost
Okay.
that they're buying from
Mm-hmm.
New Central, yes.
Okay, and I'll just 11.8.
Right, so this is also interesting. It's actually kind of nice that we're going down line by line like this. So
Luckily, there's fewer lines than there used to be.
so when you purchase a service from WCSU, you're paying for any changes also. So if there's a healthcare change or anything like that, right? So that's part of the increases.
Yeah.
So the special ed SU assessment, that will change a little bit based on the approved budget for special ed.
Is it going down?
I think it's gonna go down a little bit, yeah.
Oh, see, hey, Matt and Tammy, you know anywhere on this page here to say? See, I knew if we asked questions.
73.
Good job, Matt and Tammy back there.
Okay, lines 75 through 79 is co-curricular. This part of the budget, the 1502, is the co-curricular that is mainly Dover's after-school program and summer school, although Tammy and Matt have discussed, and you guys can go into further detail, sharing that summer school piece, right? So,
Is that 1501 or 1502?
1501.
So more just creating an opportunity for the students in Wardsboro to possibly attend the summer school program that's offered either here or whether we think about switching it to another location.
So that's where we're increasing opportunity for
Correct.
students.
Correct.
Because Wardsboro didn't have a summer school. So now there'll be something available for the students that go to 10 River Valleys, and the Wardsboro building can, okay, that's really good. We should highlight, or
Yeah,
that should
I
be a
just
note.
made a note to
Yeah,
put that in there.
because that's really good.
Yeah. And then in 81, this is actually the Wardsboro piece of the co-curricular budget where they're paying towards 21C. This will be reduced. I'm not sure what it'll be quite yet, but it'll be probably, ask them how much they want to save in this part of the budget.
How come?
Because I'm going to tell them a number.
No, why is it going to be reduced though?
Because we need to reallocate the way that the LEAs pay based on students. Again, I mean, Wardsboro's down, you know, they have 41 students, so they should not be paying more than Marlboro's paying. Right? So we're doing an
Oh, so
adjustment.
that's, you're right, okay, I see what you're saying.
So probably close to 4,000 you could save in this area.
Can you say 5? Can you say 6?
Give them paddles.
We haven't,
You can bid on it.
Kylie and I are working out the details, but it's see roughly what it is for
So this budget is really nowhere near close to being ready to vote on.
today.
Yeah.
Tonight.
I think we got a couple unknowns still, don't we?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is there's still quite a few unknowns, so we shouldn't.
Yeah.
They just put the fear into it.
Okay, next page, guidance. This again is another area where we have a teacher employed and then also purchase service. And then school nurse, another area here. We are, I don't know how much to say, but with all of these areas we're looking at as far as equity and a different way possibly to do things.
That's a good way to put it.
Then, any questions on those two programs? No. Okay. So.
Well, does anybody else? It's not just me.
No?
Okay. So then we're moving down to line 98, which is 2213. This is for employment training and development. So this is for admin directed. So this is something that both Matt and Tammy can direct. You know, they could bring in a trainer for something, anything like that. It's not something the teacher uses their professional development money that they're contracted to receive for, at Matt and Tammy's discretion.
We're directed.
Directed.
Not-
Under 2213?
2213.
Okay.
So what does this
I
say?
think that might be the contractual money. I'll double check that though.
I'll double check it then. I have admin directed on here, so,
Well, it's admin approved, but
okay.
I think it's the amount of money we agreed to in our contract, which is up to $700 per teacher, total max cost of that.
Oh, well, that would make sense, because that's what you got here.
I know, but I don't know why I have the note admin directed. I have no.
No, because it would probably be admin approved.
I have, if you go back to the 1101 program, the elementary program, you'll see on line 32, the 5291, other employee benefits.
That's the 740 times 12 employee teacher. You're awesome, Lori.
It's like, okay, you know what it confused is because I didn't take this note out, 700 per
Right.
FTE, so
Okay.
it is admin directed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry?
we just wanted to note that we found some savings.
Does somebody have something they can throw at them?
It's a reason they're sitting back there.
Yeah.
Out of rage.
Hey, good job, folks. Your superintendent's proud of you, but he'll be having a little conversation tomorrow morning.
So then the next part of the budget is the IB and the STEAM, and that is the school focus piece of the budget. So not a lot of increase here, just a little bit of,
It's kind of like we moved some things around a little bit.
yeah. And we did reallocate. Tammy and I talked about it. Mainly the STEAM was reallocated. Basically just rebalanced that $20,000. That $20,000 is still in there.
Just balanced.
But it's not just one
Not
chunk.
one number.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just more appropriate where it is.
You think FICA's okay? Some
I
people
go
think
through-
it's a little high.
Yeah, I go through and check the numbers and I put okay when I know that it's a good calculation. Library media, oh yes, here is where we put the books and periodicals, and again, equity-wise, we are doing this across the issue as well, $20 per pupil for library books.
Can we do 1950? Just something
Absolutely.
different.
Okay,
We're getting extra time, I take it?
I'm sorry?
We're getting extra time? 0.5 increase?
Right, so the
Cost.
purchase service, it's not extra time, it's just increased cost based on shared services at the WCSU. So that program at WCSU had some increase in cost. It could have been, part of its salary, part of its benefits,
The .5 is just that, that's what the FTE is. And
Right.
that didn't change.
The FTE has not changed, and that is remind me again, guys, for library, it's .4 for Dover. And .1 for Wardsboro.
You need one full-time librarian for every 300 students. So Dover should be less than, should be at .3. So the total should be a .4. Or 3.5. Just saying. What does that save you?
That would save you 20% of that 56,000.
Yeah, which is quite a savings. It's almost more than the last savings we had. Just saying.
No, hey, that's why we do this.
Okay.
I guess- I
Are we
don't think
being
we're-
directed to?
No, I'm just,
Okay.
I haven't heard anybody jump on that
He's just
bandwagon.
pointing out the best practice.
I'm just pointing something out.
Okay. All right.
Maybe somebody in the public will figure it out.
Moving along to principal, budget. We did move the, some of the numbers around so that, and also included money for an interpreter and lease and all that. So that is on line 126. Okay. And
Hey, I got a question. Do our, both administrators have contracts?
I don't know. I mean, they have one right now.
With
Do they have one for next
River,
year?
with River Valleys, or are they still with Wardsboro and with Dover?
Let me double check.
Because I don't ever remember redoing contracts.
I will
Did we,
check.
Matt, or Tam?
I think we
I
did last year.
thought we did last year, but I'll check
But are
and
they,
I'll see if
then are they
end this year.
multi-year, and do we have raises built in, or do we have to
I
come up
will,
with raises?
Yeah, I think it was a 1 year.
Yeah,
Because
I
I think
don't
things were still
remember,
in the air.
but
That's what I'm
if we could, I would like to do multiple-year contracts with them, just so we get, that's one less thing to have to, like, have Matt come to us on June 30th, say, am I coming back to work on the 1st or not?
I think that's great. I will get copies and have those ready for the board.
So then that just leads to my next question is, the increase, is that a contractual increase, or is that just based on what the teachers got, or do we have to figure that out too, because then?
it's partially based on what the teachers, and also there's a correction in
Right.
there from before too, so it's both things.
Okay, but so we don't know if it's what their actual contract says?
That's right. Mhm.
Okay, so let's look at that, maybe we can save a couple $1,000s there. That's throwing something at me, Bill.
All right. Any other questions on this area of the budget?
Yes, I see, I don't know if I see it, but in the past, I think, I know, just because I know Matt's contract, because it was similar to Bill's, we put professional development specific to the administrator in there, that they could, do what they wanted to, and, just, or how do the contracts line up? And maybe for the next meeting, in executive session, we can just look at the contracts and make sure we're treating them fairly equal.
Got it.
Okay, moving along to operations, unless there's another question. No, so this is also a combination of salaried people, and at Wardsboro, they actually have contracted service for some of their items. The cleaning is all contracted, and then some snow plowing and that type of thing. So this is where, obviously, there was a big increase for the building maintenance, which is, there's a sheet in the back here we'll get to, but that's on line 147. Okay, and so there's some maintenance items that need to be addressed. Let's see, where else? Give that's the major one, really. The other ones are just salary and benefit increases.
I've got a
Yep,
question, line 157, the oil.
yes.
Which number is it the 235 or the 227 that the 38,000 is based on?
Both.
Both, because Dover does theirs with the town,
Okay.
and they got a 235, and with Nido. is-
Nido.
Nido.
Yeah.
And Wardsboro did their budget with with their bid with the WCSU, and through Barrows, and we got 227.
So this number's gone back and forth because there's some years we'd have been better off dealing with.
Yeah.
But the one thing about the two buildings is Barrows probably knows their oil furnace and Nido's will come up and help us with ours. And they're both kind of more local. Barrows is right in Jamaica and Nido's is down in Wilmington, so that's something that may never
Change.
yeah.
Okay?
The other thing, I just wanted to make a point for people to look at, and it's, again, Matt and Tammy did a wonderful job here. It's only $180 savings, but I see under, next to asbestos, it says CM, which must mean that Chris is dealing with the asbestos, so instead of us having to pay somebody to do asbestos. So I think that's a really, again, another example of even though we're paying 70 or 80,000 there, here's some savings just for us. And so, there's probably $1,000 or more in savings in asbestos to all the schools.
Yeah, about, district-wide, it was roughly about $3,000.
So we're a small part of that.
Karen, upkeep,
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
going back to, guys, just something to think about, and I think we really need to, so the building maintenance stuff, non-technology, 5431,
line 147.
yeah, I really believe that number should be the general maintenance, the stuff that we're gonna just do, that we have to do, that we have a budget in there. I think any major planned, like if we're gonna do a HVAC system or do, right, but I think that needs to be somewhere else.
So what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is like the ERV replacement, we're not doing that every year.
Right.
That is
And we should have a spot where that goes, and if you wanna move it in later just to show, but I just think this is gonna be confusing to people. Somebody's gonna focus on this, where I'd rather keep the things like the little repairs that they each have done in the buildings, like, oh, paint this wall, or, a child, somebody broke a window, so we do that. That I really think should be separated out.
versus we're painting
Yeah,
this
this is
entire
an
room.
operating budget.
Right, so I put basically I put the ERV replacement in here to sort of balance out all of the maintenance things at Dover. So, you've got 6 exterior windows for $10,000, right, being replaced. So that's why I put it in for just a 1 year done. But absolutely, we can move it out and have it can come out of the capital fund budget, or it can.
Well, and I don't care if we vote on it this year.
You just don't want it lumped.
I just think it makes our it skews our operating budget a little bit.
Okay.
And,
So we'll move
and
it to a
again,
different line.
just $60,000 in a, what is our total bottom line, like 6 million? No, that's your superintendent, that's special ed, whatever the
5
number.
point something.
So, I mean,
5.4.
it's, percentage.
5.3, so it's 5.8.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, if we could have maybe, and the other thing is, I really would like to see, because that is such a big number, and again, I know you've got it somewhere, but exactly what we're doing, like 10 windows or 5 windows at $10,000.
So in the back of your budget
Yeah.
is this right
And
here.
that's got it
this laid
all.
out everything, so if there's anything else you want me to move into a different line besides the ERV. And I guess for clarification, do you want the ERV moved into a different line within the budget, or do you want to cut it from the budget and plan to use fund balance to replace it, knowing it needs to be replaced? That was a 2-part question.
I'm gonna be an idiot. What is an ERV?
Energy recovery.
Ventilation.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks, sorry.
I didn't know that.
I don't do
I can't remember.
it keeps the air
I know it's the thing
circulating.
in the
and it-
ceiling that needs to
Thank
be
you.
replaced.
Yeah, and it needs to be replaced, but it's something that will be replaced once, hopefully.
I would really love to see this page be like another set of line items somewhere. I mean, I would really like.
All those different things.
Well, yeah, because that way we can explain to people why it's so high this year and why it's lower next year.
And broken out by school?
Yeah, I think so, just because I think people are gonna wanna, like, somebody's gonna say, you just put a new boiler in the school. No, that was the other building. I don't, what do you guys think?
But you could have a supplemental, just like what you have here, it's a supplemental, look to a different page of what the expenses are, and you just can refer to the back page, and that tells you where that's going,
Yeah,
I
can put it
agree
on.
with, I agree with Dwight on that.
Well, if you look at the HRA above, it went up 50%, but the variance is $1,600.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. But here it's 247%, but it's big dollars. It's $44,000. It's
Those are the
probably
things we look for.
right a couple pennies on the tax rate,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So I just, again, I like it when the operational budget kind of has little increases. And if we need to do something big, even if it's a bunch of littler things that become a bigger project, I like to see that discussed kind of off to the
maybe
side.
you do both, if you have a separate line item, separate section here, and then also break it out on another page.
Yeah,
So I'm somewhat limited with my account codes.
Right.
So
Right,
remember
okay.
that,
No, I
like,
know.
so
Right.
and it's new system too, so that, in the past, we've done stuff, and if we had done it the same way in the past, then this wouldn't stick out as bad either. I understand that.
Can you have same account code on multiple lines?
Is that,
So you leave it under the
No,
same
because then it
account
might as
code?
well just be
If I
more.
manually do it, yeah.
You'd have to-
Is
I
that-
can't pull
okay.
this out of the system.
is that 62.5 kind of a number we look for next year, like looking ahead?
Yeah,
So it's gonna remain the same at right around that number, so
I
next
think
year.
it's a 1-year explain.
Yeah, so
Right.
so the following year, the number should probably be somewhere in the same neighborhood.
So we-
Well,
65?
I think it depends on what we do with the ERB system.
Yeah.
Well, it also depends on what we do with the rest of the building and the engineering
improvements,
reports.
Right.
Where you pull out.
Yeah, so if that was a constant number or somewhere near a constant number, it'd be a lot easier to explain than if it's gonna be varying based on what we decide to do each year.
I think it will be a more constant
With,
number.
with Gatsby and all the reporting and auditing stuff, Lori, would it be easier to have that if we just included, I mean, do we have a definition of what a capital expense is? Because I know like, when you do the associations, they don't want you to, the government says we can't count painting as a capital expense, that's a
Right.
maintenance. Do we have any kind of rules like that in here?
I
Number
had that,
one.
I don't have it with me, I had that fund balance,
Right, the sheet.
that
It's
sort
more
of
of a
laid
planned
out.
expense, like you said.
Yeah, I don't think I brought it with me tonight in my binder. But I can get that definition for you, and we can come back to this next time in the updated budget. I will move out the 15,000, because I think that makes sense. I guess my question is, do you want it in this budget, or do you want to address it differently in the capital? It can be addressed as a capital.
So what
It's a
happens
one-time expense.
what
it's
happens
not
if we don't do it?
We'll wait till
Don't
the
do the
break
work,
and
yeah.
then we fix it.
We have to do the work.
And you pay for it.
Why do you have to do the work?
Well, from what I understand, this is critical.
Yeah, they just, the unit is dying, they don't make replacement parts anymore, and if, it actually runs our heating system, if it goes in the middle of the winter, then the building could possibly freeze up.
Okay, so not on that one, that's a bad example. I noticed we had the gym floor here, that needs to be replaced. Well, I've been hearing the gym floor needs to be replaced for 20 years.
Right.
Been 5 administrators have told us if we don't replace the gym floor now, people are gonna die, and I don't know of anybody dying in the gym yet.
I guess I would have time.
Well,
As a former
Great if we could
administrator, right?
replace the gym floor.
no,
Yeah,
we
just twist the
had,
ankles.
we had a principle that was, like, oh, people are,
Yeah.
it's, if it does, and that was a long time ago, and we haven't replaced the gym floor, and it's still okay. And I think it's kind of part of that long-range plan is, so maybe if we only spent 50,000, we saved 10 this year, and yeah, the floor may cost us another 5 next year, but, maybe they come up with something newer, better, and,
I think that's the idea.
yeah, I'm sorry.
The wood floor replacement's not in this budget.
No.
It's,
Right, so that's next year.
Okay.
that's on the long-term capital plan.
Yeah,
That's in the CNA.
well, that's kind of what the idea of why I asked if it can remain
Okay, see the
stable.
ERV replacements in this, on this thing for Wardsboro,
It is.
on the
Again,
back page.
on this right here.
Yeah.
So this is just a
But that's- but
costing
then
of everything,
If you-
and
if you
then
keep that number
I
steady,
moved over
you-
budget submission for first draft. These are the only things that are in the budget. See, I didn't bring over
Oh, okay, so the
other
roof
things.
replacement, you're putting 50 away.
50 away for that.
Okay. And so, and that's part of that 60,000.
It is part of
Okay,
it.
but
Yep.
we also have our fund balance too that we haven't talked about yet. That, because I mean, in Dover, some of our money was assigned to building.
So I haven't gotten good numbers yet from, but I was on the phone with Chad from Sullivan and Powers
Can
today.
I talk to you?
He did talk to me,
Oh, too
actually.
lucky.
So, yeah, so we're working with Marco and trying to, I had given you some fund balance numbers last meeting, I think it was, and, but I hadn't had a chance to
Right.
get a hold of Chad, so I got a hold of Chad, so those are gonna change some.
So can we do this then? Let's
So some of
just
the
get,
buildings.
let's leave this alone for now.
Okay.
But can we, at the next meeting that you're at with us, can we have, kind of a suggestion on what you're seeing for capital? How much we should put, because maybe, yeah, we'll put 50,000 towards a roof, but maybe we can take that out of reserve funds and not out of operational budget?
How do we fund the capital then?
Well, in Dover, we used to fund the capital by us, having a separate article that would say, do you want to put $50,000 towards the building reserve? Do you want to put 20,000 towards equipment reserve? And do you want to put 10,000 towards the bus reserve?
Okay.
And those were separate articles. Then sometimes we would use fund balance to fund that, or
You can't put.
because we could change that at the meeting, because we could recommend, let's say we said we want to raise taxes in the amount of 100 to fund the reserve fund, but then Lori comes back to us in January and says, hey, just before our meeting that, I just found that we're going to probably have 200,000 in surplus this year, so we can say, hey, look, instead of raising taxes for this, let's just use any surplus to fund it. So,
But it does go to Rick's point about building an operations budget, and then when you separate it out as a separate article, it gives people an opportunity to talk about why you're doing it that way.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to get a vote, essentially getting a vote each year in order to fund some of these projects. Is that essentially-
no, it's not to fund the project, it's to fund the
Well, fund the
fund.
reserves.
Fund
Fund the
the fund
reserves.
fees for the project.
Yeah, okay.
But you do anyways, because if you put it in your operational budget,
Well, that's another, right.
they can't go for a line item, but somebody could easily stand up and say, I want to vote your bottom line, reduce your bottom line $44,500 because I think you're out of line and you're,
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it's, that's why I don't mind doing it. If you're voting it as an article where somebody has to do a ballot vote, I would be a lot more nervous, and I would do it just the way it is now. Being that we get to talk to the people and explain why we're doing something, and then they have to vote on it,
Right.
I feel more confident that it's not gonna be an issue.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean, who's
Okay.
gonna stand up and say, no, you can't replace those windows, we're just gonna leave them like that, you know?
And
I guess
that's
everybody
fine,
might stand up
people
and do
spoke.
that, But,
Yeah.
but you have to have an opportunity to explain it on your end.
Right.
So the article would essentially be asking to move money up to a certain amount.
Or
If- if
moving
that's
an
essentially-
amount that we would
amount
recommend.
That we recommend, okay.
And then if for some reason we find out and we used to, Bill will tell you, we used to change budgets the morning of town meeting. We would do a sheet that said, hey, we're gonna ask you for an operational budget of $1.2 million, we found we only need 1,115,000, so can
Is that-
somebody make a motion to that?
Does that article raise the budget essentially, if you're, it does,
Yeah.
okay. Fine, good, that's great.
Because it's all conjecture when we get there anyway, because we don't know when anything's gonna land.
Right, so at the end of the year, you might have a
What the tax
surplus,
rate
you don't have to do as much, got, yeah, okay, got
It's
it.
just direction.
Well, and remember too, the budget's only one part of our meeting, because the other thing we're gonna discuss is, you know, in Dover, we always made a motion at town meeting that any surplus be
Of course.
transferred to the reserve fund, and then that way, the money isn't in limbo for that year and a half. It's,
Yeah.
you know, we know that at the end of the year, when Lori gets her audit, if there was a surplus of $12,000, she knows right where to
So
put
what
it.
happens when there's a deficit?
Then we make it up the following years. She shows us, there'll be, in the budget, there'll be the deficit, or we can ask that the voters at the following town meeting take money out of the reserve to fund the deficit, and then we just vote the operational budget.
Gotcha.
But again, you get to talk to the people,
No, I-
instead of trying to write the article so they understand it.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay,
So
so,
for now, we're gonna leave this?
yeah, leave it.
And then
We'll have a,
back to it.
right, we'll have a discussion on the whole.
Do you still want me to move the 15 though to a different line?
No,
item?
leave everything alone for now. And we'll look at kind of what you're suggesting for reserves and,
Okay, hopefully by then I will have,
yeah. And if
Okay.
not, we will just, you know, we'll do what we think is best at the time, and if we have to go to our meeting and ask them to change something, we'll do it then at the meeting.
yeah, I did remind them that it needed to be done no later than 12/31 by law.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah. Upkeep and care of buildings and outside, this is actually more outside things here. So a lot of these different things, this $10,100 are all mainly for Dover. These are all handled pretty much through your contracted service, right, Tammy? For the most part?
Yes, yeah.
How much is a contracted service in Wardsboro, just for the number?
So it's kind of chunked in together because any
It's cleaning.
repairs or anything also gets chunked into that. I could get you a hard number though for the next
Well,
meeting.
I'm just wondering, is that something we should look at, that, you know, if we were to put a bunch of the Wardsboro and Dover work together, you know, would that get us both better pricing? And it's nothing maybe for this year because it's so late, but again, when you have more time, Lori, that's it.
No, we talked about it, we talked about the potential of looking at that for next year. I think that part of the challenge is that it's cleaning, right? So, you know, both buildings need to be cleaned at the same time, and the contracted service provider you have isn't a big provider, right? I mean, he's, yeah. So, it's
Does
just,
any school use like, you know, a Massler or some service?
it's definitely something Chris and I have talked about as well, of just trying to get an idea for
Chris is
cost.
very familiar with that, working
Right.
with the co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
mean, I
talking
like-
about it and saying, you know, just like the busing, right? You don't know unless you ask how much it actually costs.
Right.
And then you find out it's,
200 some odd thousand.
yeah. But
And if you have to
you
ask,
have
you
to
can't
ask the
afford it
questions
anyways.
to know, right? So that's, he and I have already talked about that for next year.
Cool.
Okay, so now moving on. Okay.
Moving on.
We're in transportation, where we talked about, you know, not a huge increase in here, salary, benefits, that type of thing, increasing to actual. Bus repairs, we did put in a little bit more money there. The actual for 19 was $11,000, so we, you know, came up a little bit there. Food service.
Transportation.
Oh, yeah.
The fiscal year 20
Mhm.
total, the 95,913,
Yeah.
that does not include the 25,000 for the Brattleboro bus that,
That's in
oh, that
secondary.
was, okay.
So, right, so this line 177, though, no, it's a good question. line 177, see this purchase service, that 40,000? That represents just the elementary section of,
okay.
Joe,
Does
of
actually say that.
Wardsboro's purchase service.
Okay.
So they also have a piece in secondary.
Secondary,
Yeah,
okay.
we split it out, the AOE needs us to split it out that way. Food service, I worked with Lori O'Hearn on that. So food service runs in a separate fund, and then this budget, the general budget, basically pays what the federal reimbursements doesn't cover. And so she and I work together, and that 45 doesn't need to be increased. It's a solid number. So that's good. Then go ahead.
On the food service, is there any talk about using Dover to feed Wardsboro, since we have
We
in-house people?
didn't go down that road yet, right?
Quick answer, there is some talk, we just don't have any hard numbers yet.
So again, a challenge is that West River is providing the food for Wardsboro, and it's actually pretty cost effective to do it that way. So we need to look at, when you get into the mode of transporting food, right? So now you're talking about a van, right? So there's a van that comes to Wardsboro with their food that West River has, that is leasing. So if Dover did the food, there would need to be a van leased or some sort of transportation between. So it's a lot broader than just can Dover do the food? So but again, something to look at and ask the questions. All right. Secondary. So secondary is, the first line is it's a standard line that's put in there for 504 students. So these are not special ed students, but they're still required some additional services that we need to put in money for. And then the rest is tuition, which is, there's a page in here that has the tuition breakdown here. And the figures that I used, there's actually, I should change this, it's 3 additional students. So I have 3 phantom students built into this number, which is line 186 probably is where the phantom students are built into. I also projected using the 17,600.
Well, you say four ed students.
I know, I forgot to change it.
Oh, okay.
Another
You said
student
that.
came in between the time I did this and.
Well, you know what, again, it's, who knows
Yeah,
what's gonna happen.
it's just like special ed, you just don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. But I did budget at the higher rate because we are seeing more students, as we've discussed, going to private school versus the public. And then the special ed assessment for secondary, so if you added this number and then the elementary number, that's where it comes from, Wyndham Central. Again, this may go down a little bit, so some savings there. Voc Ed is something we have to put in the budget.
Yeah, we don't see that usually till January.
The vocational?
No.
No, we're starting to get
Are you getting-
bills for 6 semester averages, yeah. And then, but those numbers could change if I get the information in time, up or down. And then the transportation, that's the secondary. Plus there was 10,000 put in for the Leland and Grand Run and the Mover. Yep.
So back to the vocational, it's not big numbers, but I mean, it goes up every year. Shouldn't we just add 3% to?
So no, it actually is based on a 6 semester average.
Right.
So it depends on what students you had 6 semesters ago as to what the cost is. And it comes from the state. It's a calculation that they do. So it actually doesn't necessarily mean it goes up 3% every year, because you could have a student
Okay.
6 semesters ago dropping
Drop
off,
off, okay.
right? So I wait for the state to give us those numbers.
Not so much a numbers question, but how does special ed work with secondary students? Is it all billed back through the WCSU
Everything.
for our students?
Yes, everything comes through the
Okay.
WCSU
That's what I
for,
just was wondering how that came back.
right. So you pay your regular ed tuition, that goes actually through this budget. And then any special ed costs come through SU. Additional.
Even from schools that are not part of the SU?
That's right.
Okay, great. Okay, just curious.
Then we're into the location-wide, which is basically just the board and the SU assessment, which I can happily say, line 205, when I give you the updated budget, will be less. Could save money there, guys. Okay.
Yeah, because it's only 3.39 instead of 3.5.
Well, and then you have the adjustment of the ADM,
Right.
which will actually make that number go down.
146,186.
Because we lost.
$6,000, Matt. Quick, Matt, Tammy.
We
Tell
got it, or we
us-
need it?
No, you saved us $6,000.
Line 205, good job.
Then everything else.
Show it in the minutes, Matt. Be proud of it.
So legal services, I budgeted the same. There's just no data that shows you're gonna spend a lot more on legal services. The audit's gonna come in the same. Line 216 is the technology that you're buying through the SU.
What does that include?
So that includes, how many hours a week? You told me and I haven't even,
1.4.
14,
yeah,
last night,
right.
budgeted for.
So for Dover and then basically a .15, we're also looking at that too, because they're two different people right now, so we're looking at that for for River Valleys. And that was .15 is the service that Wardsboro was receiving out of that. And then software, so there's a lot of software costs that are all, for Wyndham Central last year, I combined all of the technology throughout the whole SU into the agency fund budget, which you haven't seen yet. So the other night, we didn't present an agency fund budget because there's been a lot of fluctuation, and it's not quite settled yet. So we're working on that, but the technology was brought all together into the SU budget. And it's really actually been very good over the last year. I've been working with Peter Golrick, our technology director, and he's finding different places where there might be a software that one or two teachers might use, but for an additional, I don't know what it was, $100. He could open it up to the entire SU. But he didn't know we didn't know about those different software things that were happening before. So it's been good to bring it all together. We can look at it as a whole for the SU. So that includes some software upgrades and that type of thing, as well as salary, benefits, all of that.
Is there any hardware included in that?
Yes, so all of the hardware is also in the SU. And then the 50,000 is what I added for long-term capital projects, but that, again, we're going to.
What's that? And if we axe that, and you
Right.
axe on the other side, like 20 or 30, I mean, you bring it down and your 8.61% increase becomes maybe, and with all the other things, it's not anywhere near as bad an increase. And then I think if we vote that, a transfer to the capital as a separate article, then it's easy to explain, so, because it wasn't there last year, even though maybe it should have been, but.
So did you want me to review that
I think we all
now?
agree it should have been, yeah.
Right, so let's,
Right?
are you guys, let's definitely do that, Lori.
The
'cause
50,000.
at least the 50 to start with, that would be
Okay.
really good. I mean, if you're 460 and you're an 8% increase, if you take, say, 50 off, you're taking off 1, 2, 3, you're taking off a ninth. what does that do to, I mean, percentage-wise, it's gonna drop a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So it'll be almost 400, right, 1%.
So, I mean, that's a start.
Yeah, it's just our,
So,
And then there will be some other reductions
Right.
based on when I.
well, Tammy, Matt worked really hard back then.
true.
Yeah, they found
Way to
another
go, guys.
50,000 while we're sitting here.
Chipping away.
And, so, for the next meeting, then, you'll be able to tighten up the numbers you can.
Yep,
Maybe-
update the budget.
Maybe do us a favor.
Mhm.
Any number that you're positive of, that you're sure is set, you know, maybe, or any number that you're not sure that could move, like the tech center. You know, let's maybe just note that, so if there's only a few of those numbers too, then we can feel comfortable voting the budget. If not, we may wanna, you know, wait, if there's a lot of things that are still in flux.
53,000 is a percent.
Is 1%?
So,
We're down to
We just
7.
found a percent right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still may spend it, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's
Just
gonna
where
be
it's coming
in a
from.
different, right.
Yeah.
Lori, excellent job, thank you.
thank you.
Do we have a fund balance number? Are we gonna? is that-
She
Well,
has that paper.
So, it's attached on here, as
Is it?
as
Okay.
your total package.
I'm sorry.
I would caution
Okay.
though that based on my conversation, things may have changed a little bit.
Okay.
Since,
You
Right there.
could get us a solid
Down, I
number?
assume?
what's
Down, I assume?
I did see it.
It's hard to tell, to be honest with you at this point.
There's still, the audit's not done yet, unfortunately.
Like, yeah,
And the Dover, people doing the Dover audit are not very cooperative.
yeah, the
Lori
numbers
waited
will
a long
become
time.
more solid as we,
It's just so funny that we're supposed to make decisions like this and somebody can't make a decision about something that happened 2 years ago.
I know. Very frustrating.
3 years ago, yeah.
I can tell you what the solid numbers are. The Wardsboro numbers on this are pretty solid.
And you've got
So,
that yellowed.
Um,
Oh, no, it's something.
No, that's just, I need to check into that number since,
But, so next meeting, we'll have a lot new.
hopefully. So the things that we will have next meeting are an updated budget with everything that I know to date. So the December 1st commissioner's letter will come out, so that'll have to be informative. What we won't know at the next budget meeting, which is on December 2nd, I think.
Correct.
Is equalized pupils or anything like that.
But that's to set the, more to set the tax rate, not to set the budget.
It is.
So we're okay, we can vote a budget
Mhm.
and then still come back and discuss, because we're also losing 2 cents.
Right.
Wardsboro went through a reappraisal, so that made some differences. Okay, guys?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Thank you, Lord.
You're welcome.
Hey, good job back there too, guys.
Excellent.
Yeah, we all got together and hashed this thing out. It
But
was
you did
great.
find some things that having a crossover would save some
Right.
money overall, which is great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And some places to free services and
Yeah,
improve services.
absolutely.
So I'm gonna ask that we skip over the executive session because we spent a lot of time, but I think we got a lot of good stuff done today. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass you folks out an updated
Dissertation?
no, this is,
That's a short dissertation.
stop.
So,
Okay.
Your Director of Finance has engaged through a grant, a HR consultant who's been using her services in a variety of places in our business office. And one of the things that we asked her to do was take a look at your handbook and dive deep into her recommendations from an HR consultant's perspective.
She's also a lawyer as well.
She's both, and works
No,
with,
that was yours.
Oh, I have one.
I already gave him once. Matt, Bob, but I messed up. Did you not want them to have it?
yeah, those minutes.
Yeah, so here.
You don't like truth, do you?
Not at all, man.
Okay, so
I learned early on.
So listen, next meeting in Wardsboro at 6:30. So let's, Lori, are you coming to that meeting then
I
or
will
not?
be at the December 2nd, because that's when I'm going to bring the updated budget. Mhm.
Now,
But you will
West
not.
River meets the
No,
same
I've made
night.
arrangements to be here. I can be here the December 2nd if you need me.
Well, why don't we plan on doing the budget first, if you guys are okay with that, and then that way those two can leave early,
Okay.
or as soon as we're done with that. And then Matt and Tammy, we're gonna need you guys just go through the contractual issue, and then you'll have to bring back to them whatever we need, and we'll do that at the end of the meeting,
On second.
on the 2nd. Is that okay with everybody? And then Bill, so for that other old business stuff, the equity web, can you just give us a calendar? We're not gonna have any discussion on it, but just, because we'll start talking about that in January.
Okay.
And then also, can we get a mock-up of, because we'll have to, by the next meeting, by the December 16th meeting, we really should start talking about town meeting and the warning stuff for town meeting. So let's get, you and I can work on, and Rick, maybe if you've got time, we'll do.
I have plenty of time these days.
we'll do the agendas.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious.
Why?
Oh, being facetious.
December 5th, don't forget, is that UVM thing for outstanding teacher. And December 16th, we'll have a meeting at Dover. And then January 6th will be in Wardsboro. That's the last day we have to warn the budget. Because our meeting is the second week of February. So we actually, January 6th is a little late.
I think you're on the 13th.
13th.
That is the drop dead date.
But that means it has to
I'm
go out
giving
like
you
the next day.
Yes.
So we really need
The
to.
16th would be.
You got no cushion.
Right, so we need, the next two meetings, we gotta really concentrate on the budget and the warning
Which is
stuff.
why Laura wasn't letting us straight.
Right.
Just holding
Okay,
right to the feet of
So,
the fire.
hey, if somebody, so that Matt can go home too, can somebody make a motion to adjourn?
The motion will be adjourned at 9:13 p.m.
Okay, motion made, second, and everybody's in favor. Good job, guys.
That's good.
Seconded.
I did.